the lecture, which is specifically for medical students, but all of us are going to learn from it. I believe so. And that is why I'm extremely delighted that we have in our midst the provost of the College of Medicine, the first and the best, Professor Temidayo Ogundiran, FAS, a very distinguished surgical oncologist, and also a leading expert in bioethics. I must mention that not only is he a surgeon with great compassion. I've had some encounters with him in his attentiveness to his patients, going beyond cutting off body parts to ensuring that their holistic care is attended to. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for your leadership. And I just want to emphasize that not only is he a surgeon, but he's also the foundation head of department of the Department of Bioethics in the University of Ibadan. Just to emphasize the fact that you can be in multiple departments and still thrive, that a surgeon will find. The bioethics department is a multidisciplinary department. So they have people from English background, Africans, so many diverse specialties. And I believe that's the way the world is moving. Once again, I'm grateful you are here before the medical students, sir. Thank you so much for your leadership. I'm very grateful. And directly beside him, we have the secretary to the College of Medicine, the deputy registrar, and a man of, I'll say, vision and integrity. I worked very well with him, and I'm so delighted. He's also a pastor. He has so not only does he have a pastor's hat, but he's a pastor. And I'm sure many of us would know that his father was also a deputy registrar in the University of Ibadan. So he comes from a family of administrators. Thank you so much, sir, for finding time to come. We really appreciate you. And seated next to him, we have the Dean of the Medical Students. The Dean of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences, a pediatric surgeon of who's world-renowned, but also a man of action, a man of distinction, a go-getter. If you want anything done, give it to Professor Lawal, and you're sure he will deliver. And I must say that you invited me to give my inaugural, and I'm eternally grateful to you because I'd given up. Thank you so much for that privilege. And of course, I come across to this end, and we have the representative of the Dean of the Faculty of Nursing. Faculty of Nursing is the newest faculty in the College of Medicine. And not only is, well, Professor Swaran, you met with the Dean when we did a courtesy visit, but she's a community nurse. So her work is out there in the community, and a lot of what we do is that there in the community. So we're absolutely delighted that we have Dr. Titi Odetola, and I was just going to whisper that she's my Yahoo. We're married into the same family. So thank you so much. And like I said, it's going to be a very, very interesting day today because we also have the stakeholders, people who have been working with us, just a representative, just a select number. In the last 4 years, we've been working on a grant. You will learn about the grant called the Transforming Access to Mental Health in Slums, where we have been partnering with traditional healers, faith-based healers, community health workers, and we've been doing, and also people with a lived experience of mental illness, serious mental illness. And they have been invited today, particularly because we're going to be showing some films after the first session that will be carried out by Dr. Swaran on his psychiatry the best specialty of all the medical specialties. So I'm very grateful, SARS and MAS, that you have taken time out of no time to come. And I believe that you would enjoy yourselves today. Thank you so much. Thank you for your partnership. Because what we've been able to do is you've been referring patients to us, and we've been collaborating. Faith-based traditional healers. We were able to come together and work together to create a training and intervention, which I believe has worked very well. And our partnership will continue. So I'm very grateful. Thank you very, very much. We also have in our midst some of the consultants from the Department of Psychiatry. Thank you very much. Dr. Lawal, I didn't see you yesterday, but I'm happy to see you today. And of course, all the others. And then the resident doctors, again, are here in full force. Can you just stand up for recognition, just up and down? The resident doctors in psychiatry. Thank you so much. You may be seated. The fact that you're so interested in learning is a sign of great things. And I really look forward to working with each of you. And those of you who are interested in my specialty, I'm sure we're going to have if you will eventually emerge from the team. Thank you so much. And we have students from the Center for Child and Adolescent Mental Health, research members, members of the different research teams. And of course, we have our medical students. And I believe some of you are from UI. If you've come from UI, at the UI, if you have not crossed over to clinical school, can we see you? Just, okay, you can stand up for record. Okay, so are you 200 level? They say catch them young, catch them hot. Okay, and of course, those who have just crossed over, are you in this group? Those, if you have just crossed over to clinical school, please stand up and let's see you. If you've just crossed over. Okay. Okay, so you've just crossed over. And the rest of you are veterans here in clinical school. I don't know if the president of UMSA, University of Ibadan Medical Students, is he here? Our presidents, come and sit in front. I'm going to bring you to sit with your permission, Provost. I want the president so he won't go away his students, and let him sit beside Professor Swaran. But there are a couple of things, that's, I know him as Folusho Chris. What's your last name?
Olu Adegbola.
Olu Adegbola, yes, Olu Adegbola, but I've worked very closely with him for many years. He's a photographer. So when I was provost, he came to me one day and said he really wants to get involved in activities in the college. And I gave him a letter of appointment as a member of the Biomedical Communications Center. And he's been going around, he takes beautiful photographs. Please clap for him. Not only is a leader, is a medical student, is a true leader and a team builder. Thank you so much for mobilizing all the medical students. And as I said, we're going to continue to work together because we have a nice studio, so we'll work together and make money together. So thank you so much. On that note, I'm going to, we have our guest lecturer here, and I think the best person to introduce him is a member of the University of Warwick. I'm not a member of the University of Warwick. I have 2 grants with the University of Warwick through Professor Singh. But there's somebody here who is the academic director in the Center for Child and Adolescent Mental Health, and a reader in the Department of Psychiatry. And who is also a PhD student on the Transform grant in the University of Warwick. And Professor Swaran told me the other day, and I haven't been able to get over it. He said, everyone in Warwick loves her. I don't know what that means. And I don't know what kind of message he was conveying to. Maybe he's saying that people in Warwick don't love you, but everyone in Warwick loves her. You know, she doesn't rock the boat. She only rocks the boat with me. I can give you some examples, but you know, I rock the boat all the time, so not everybody will love me. But please, I'm so delighted to welcome Dr. Tolulope Teresa Belausa. And I say it publicly, within the College of Medicine, because I have other academic children who are professors in other parts of Nigeria. She is first academic daughter. When she was a resident in 2003, I was looking for somebody to follow me into the community, to the remand home, into the SOS children's villages, into schools for children all over. I wanted somebody that would really have a passion for the less privileged, for the vulnerable. And I must say that I found that in her. And we have partnered she was a senior house officer, first year resident. Since 2003, we have worked together in partnership, haven't we? And the very first day I went into the remand home, on the 6th of March, 2003, we went together, and we haven't looked back since then. So, Dr. Tolulope Belausa, please, I invite you to read the citation of Professor Swaran Singh as a member of, go to the top, as a member of the Warwick team. Warwick University.
Thank you, Ma. Good morning, everyone. I extend courtesy to the Provost of the College of Medicine and other members of the college management team. It's a great honor for me to read the citation of our distinguished lecturer for today, Professor Swaran Singh. I think, Prof, please, I want to invite you to step onto the podium. Professor Swaran Singh, MBBS, MD, FRC Psych, DM, is a distinguished professor of social and community psychiatry at Warwick Medical School, University of Warwick, United Kingdom. He is also the director of the Center for Mental Health and Wellbeing Research at Warwick and a practicing consultant psychiatrist with Coventry and Warwickshire Partnership NHS Trust. Professor Singh's work spans clinical practice, academic research, health services development, and global mental health policy. He originally trained as a surgeon in New Delhi, India, but changed path into psychiatry and mental health through his early involvement with human rights groups, working with children, through his work with children traumatized by ethnic violence. This experience sparked his interest in the social determinants of mental health and led him to retrain in psychiatry at the Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research in Chandigarh, India. He moved to the United Kingdom in 1991, working at universities in Nottingham and London, as well as practicing as a consultant. While at St. George's University of London, he developed the Ethos Early Intervention Service, which gained international recognition for improving outcomes for young people with psychosis. He established the first NHS-funded early intervention in psychosis service in London in 2001. And this service has been widely acknowledged for improving outcomes for young people with first episode of psychosis. In 2006, Professor Singh was appointed Professor of Social and Community Psychiatry at Warwick. He has since pivotal role in expanding into research and service in mental health. For mental health research, he has and overseen large-scale research initiatives addressing early intervention, youth mental health, transitional care, cultural and ethnic influences on psychiatric outcomes, and evidence-based reform of mental health services both in the United Kingdom and internationally. His work on transitional care and early intervention was instrumental in major reforms of youth mental health care in the United Kingdom and internationally. He currently leads several large-scale projects transforming mental health services in the Indian subcontinent and in sub-Saharan Africa. These include the Transforming Access to Care for Severe Mental Disorders in Slums, known as Transform, and implementing early mental and physical health detection and support, promoting a whole school approach to health and well-being, known as ISOBA, but branded as SHINE in Nigeria. Professor Singh has published extensively with over 350 peer-reviewed journals. These have contributed to advancing understanding of early psychosis, epidemiology of mental disorders, somatization, deliberate self-harm, mental health law, and medical education. His scholarship combines robust clinical insight with a deep appreciation of sociocultural context and service system complexities. Beyond academia, he has influenced health policy and practice. His work on early intervention services informed national policy frameworks in the United Kingdom, and he has served as a commissioner for the Equality and Human Rights Commission from 2013 to 2019, a role which was mandated by the United Kingdom Parliament, reflecting his commitment to equity and human rights in health. Professor Singh's career reflects a sustained dedication to improving outcomes for individuals with mental health conditions through integrated clinical practice, innovative service design, and global Professor Singh's career reflects a sustained dedication to improving outcomes for individuals with mental health conditions through integrated clinical practice, innovative service design, and global research collaborations. His leadership in mental health research and policy has been recognized widely and includes being named among the top 50 influential Black, Asian, and minority ethnic leaders in English health and care. And he continues to mentor new generations of clinicians and researchers in the field. He's married with 3 children, and his hobbies include philosophical and reflective writing, cooking, and gardening. Please join me in welcoming Professor Swaran Singh.
Thank you so much. Can I hug you? Well, thank you very much for that very generous introduction. Had my parents been alive and here, my mother would have been very proud, but my father wouldn't believe it entirely. You know, we have this thing in India, you can never satisfy your father. You will always say, well, that man's son next door, he's doing slightly more, he's making slightly more money than you. I'm going to, okay, sure. Is that better? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to divide my talk into 3 parts. The first is why I became a psychiatrist. Okay? Second is what do psychiatrists do? And third is why you should become a psychiatrist. Not all of you, some of you. It's not for everyone. It is a very, very difficult and challenging specialty. But if you are the kind of person that I will describe, who should be a psychiatrist, it is the most rewarding specialty. I said the best specialty just to be provocative, sir. I wasn't saying one is better than the other, but for me, it has been my calling. I love being a surgeon. I absolutely love being a surgeon. But there is not a single day that I regret the decision to change. The reason why psychiatry is the most intellectually stimulating specialty is that we deal with the most complex known entity in the universe. I would like someone here to stand up and define the mind. Try. I presume you will all say you have a mind. You have a mind? Anyone here not have a mind? Okay. Where is your mind right now? Where is it physically located? Where? Where is it? Where is it? Where is your mind right now? Physically, where is it? Here. What do you mean by here? You mean in this room?
Any of you?
It's in this room. Where in this room? In that corner? Where in this room? No, it's a serious question. Where is your mind? So, but I want to finish this conversation. Where is it right now? Physically, where is your mind located at this moment?
Oh, there's no, okay, for the mind, like, there's no specific place the mind is at the moment, like.
Okay, all right. Prove to me that you have a mind. Show me your mind.
I can't prove it.
So you don't have it?
I have a mind, but I can't prove it.
But you say you can't show it to me. You say it is somewhere in the room, but you don't know where.
Yes.
Why should I believe you? I say to you, there's a pink elephant in that corner. Anyone else want to have a go?
Thank you so much. When it comes to whether we have a mind or not, I came across a video on YouTube a few years ago. It says that there are two theories that they've heard of. That there's the possibility that the mind, resides in the brain, right? And from the brain, it controls the body, sort of like an operation center. Then there's another theory that it is possible that the mind itself resides somewhere else. And like a puppet, it controls the body from afar. So,
bravo. You are absolutely right. There are actually three theories. One is the brain contains the mind. The mind is a secretion of the brain. Right? The second is the mind is the overall organ in charge of the brain. And the third is mind is a receiver of something else. Okay? There are three different hypotheses. You are absolutely right. But you still haven't told me what the mind is.
okay.
Right? So it's okay. It's okay. You don't know. No one
Yes,
knows.
sir.
It's all right. We don't know what the mind is. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
And beyond that, if we start discussing consciousness as a clue, these neuroscientists and philosophers write books called Consciousness Explained. I've written, if those of you who are interested, I write a blog just puncturing the hubris of neuroscience. We don't know, and we should be modest enough to say that we don't know. And the reason why we don't know the mind is twofold. One is, it's not a physical entity. Gosh.
Right. So,
Let me just mention this. Sorry, Prof, we're using a generator.
Okay, so let's get back. So while we've had this interruption, has anyone had any more thoughts about the mind? Okay, if I could ask you, where is your thought? Where does it exist? To answer. There are two reasons why. One is that the mind is not a physical entity. So let me give you an example. Let's say I come here and I ask one of you, where is Ibadan University? And you take me around it. That's the registrar's office, that's the dean's office, that's the medical college, that's the school of nursing, that's the library. And I'll say, well, where's the university? You say, no, hang on, that's the university. I said, no, you said that's the dean's office. Is the dean's office the university? Is the library the university? Ibadan University is a name we give to a collective number of buildings and functions. There is no independent entity called Ibadan University. It's made up of bits. When you are playing a sport and you say, our team spirit is very good. Where is that spirit? Mind is like that. It's an abstraction of certain functions we perform. But we do know, so that's one reason we can't. And the second is, just like right now, sir, you can't lift the chair you are sitting on while you are sitting on it. You are part of it. To lift that chair, you have to stand up and lift that chair, right? We cannot understand the mind because we are inside it. To understand the mind fully, you have to be outside the mind, and that's not possible. So we will never fully understand the mind. This is an epistemic limit. This is the limit to our knowledge. Has anyone seen a photograph of the Milky Way? Show your hands, right? Do you think that's a photograph of the Milky Way from the inside? If a baby in a womb had a camera and it looks around and says, I can see my mother, it can't see its mother. It can only see the inside of the environment. So we cannot understand the mind because we are limited by the tools of the mind. And I would urge you to become a neuroscientist if you don't become a psychiatrist, because that is where all the exciting research will happen. But I will also promise you that we will never find a true definition of the mind, and definitely not find consciousness, because this is the limit of human knowledge. Within that, I'm going to show you how extraordinary it is that with so little we know how much we achieve. So there's that lovely saying, if mind was so simple that we could understand it, we would be so simple that we wouldn't be able to understand it. Somebody has worked out that the potential number of synaptic connections in a human brain exceeds all the known galaxies, the number of galaxies. It's the most complex entity in the world. So how did I become interested in the mind? So in 1984, I'd started my surgical training internship, and I was definitely going to become a surgeon. I carried on till 1987, when I moved to psychiatry. But a very interesting thing happened. I'm a Sikh. Sikhs are people who wear turbans. I don't know if you know who Sikhs are. It's a separate new religion, about 400-500 years old, very close to Christianity in its concept of God and good. Mrs. Gandhi was the Prime Minister of the country. There was political unrest in Punjab, where the Sikhs are from, and she was assassinated by her Sikh bodyguards. So I was in the hospital next door, and suddenly I heard what had happened. I went in, the whole country was in complete chaos. Nobody knew what was happening. And then a Sikh colleague of mine who worked in the hospital said, if I were you, I would leave. Things are getting bad. So I tried to leave the hospital, but by that time it was packed all around. It was really jam-packed with people. And then somebody said, there goes the bastard. And I had a blow land on the back of my head. I wasn't seriously hurt. I just held on to my turban, got into a tuk-tuk, and said, take me away from here. Over the next 3 days, we were hunted like animals. Right? The official number of figures of Sikhs killed is just about 3,200. The true figure is around 10,000. And these were anyone over 14, any male over 14. They were dragged out of their houses and set on fire. Before that, this was my interest. Music, poetry, literature, trying to write love letters, so the usual kind of teenage things. And this is what changed everything. So here you can see a Sikh man burning, while you can see the police are walking by. Here Sikhs were dragged out of public transport and the crowd is pelting them with stones. This woman is holding what little remains of her son, which is a scalp, and these mobs were led by local politicians. So we knew exactly who had done the killing. They were part of the ruling government. And the first person to be punished was only last year. All the women from Delhi, where a lot of killings were happened, they were put together in high-rise apartments. It is now called the Widows' Colony. I was really shaken by that incident. I had never felt threatened in my own country. Sikhs define India. So to be told you are the enemy was just completely, just unreal. You couldn't believe it. And I became very concerned that with the Punjab militancy going on, these children would become cannon fodder for militancy. They will simply go, and when they grow old, they will just go and join militants because of what they had seen. So I started a small play area just for them to come get out. Their mothers were in perpetual mourning. There was no support. So we started a start play area, but they wouldn't come because they were so terrified of anyone they didn't know. But I was a Sikh, so at least they trusted me. So I started a clinic. And I said, okay, you come and I'll give you basic care. By clinic, I mean if you got dysentery, you got fever or something. So I would go every Saturday and Sunday and provide free care. Then a few other people joined. Then a newspaper gave us a grant. There were other people doing it, and it became into a larger effort. So what you had were these widows in perpetual mourning, completely unsupported children, and I started noticing for the first time the impact of trauma on children. They had sleep disturbance, they had appetite disturbance, they had separation anxiety, failure to thrive, and lots of psychosomatic conditions. And there was one boy, he was 13, and he had seen his father being killed, and the crowd who had killed his father they lived nearby. So he could see that the killers were walking around with impunity. So every few weeks he would climb up to the top of the building and threaten to jump. He would say, arrest my father's killer or I'm going to kill myself. So I was the only one who listened to. So I would crawl up to the top, don't jump, let me talk to you, eventually calm him down, and then he would start sobbing, he'd start crying. But what I noticed was, he would develop urticaria. He would develop blisters immediately, acutely, suddenly. You're talking, suddenly he's crying, sobbing, and these blisters appear on his skin. So I started wondering, what is that? How does that happen? Is his skin in anguish? How is his distress being converted into this skin condition? And I also had a thought at that time that throughout my medical training, nobody had taught me why the placebo effect works. We all do a randomized controlled trial against a placebo, and you say drugs work, this drug works. Of course it works because it acts on the body. But how does an inert compound produce effect in 30% patients? Why are we not taught the placebo effect, and where does it come from? Have you ever been taught placebo effect? You're told that is what you do, but that's the side issue. How does placebo work? What is the effect? Nobody has studied it. And I became more and more intrigued in how the mind affects the body. So to my parents' real kind of anger, I decided to become a psychiatrist. My mother was very worried that if I become a psychiatrist, she said, you will become like them, as if psychiatric disorders are contagious. And my father said, who will marry you? As a surgeon, you're a catch. You know, psychiatrist, nobody marries a psychiatrist. I proved them wrong by marrying twice, actually. When I started my psychiatric training, Mother Teresa's main home is in Calcutta, which is in the east of the country. But I discovered there was a home in Chandigarh where I was training, and they were looking after about 250 children, and they'd been abandoned because they had disabilities. And these 8 nurses, 8 Catholic nuns, looked after these really helpless and disabled children with more love and compassion than I had seen in any hospital. So I volunteered to start working over there. And I realized how much human suffering is simply invisible. I had just not noticed it. So I worked there till I left India. And I left India because all our efforts to get the guilty to justice were thwarted because the people responsible were in government. I was part of a human rights group. That's where my interest in human rights came. It's a long story if I tell you the shocking things I've seen, but I suspect you have you have known things like that yourself. I suspect none of this is very new to you. I tried while I was in Chandigarh to study what makes people turn into militancy. And here you can see a pattern, right? This is a Sikh militant. He wants to separate Punjab. He's killed by the police in an encounter. His family then goes and kills a few police officers. The police officers then turn up and kill the whole family. So there was a cycle of killing. The average age of joining the militant movement was 17.5 years. The average lifespan after joining the militancy movement was 18 months. You joined at 17.5, you were dead by 19. Because they would catch you, and there were extrajudicial assassinations. They'd catch someone suspected. I would go and meet them, and they'd say, in jail, because they've been caught now. I've been told next week I'll be killed by the police, and shown that I was killed while I was trying to escape. I tried to do a study, my first attempt at research, but it was too dangerous. You know, everyone said, including the militants, you write one bad word about us, we know where you live. And the police said to me, we know where you live. So there's an unwritten paper on all the data that I have, which I have never published. But then another very interesting thing happened. This is my 3rd year, coming up to my 3rd year in psychiatric training. In India, you have a caste system, and when India became independent, by law, 25% of all jobs in all institutions, including admissions to universities and colleges and schools, were by law reserved for lower castes, those who are considered the lower caste. In 1989, the government prepared a report which said 25% is too low, and they increased it to 49%. In India, caste is not the same as wealth. There were lots and lots of poor upper caste children and young people who could not get jobs because they were upper caste but poor. This man, this young boy, his name is Rajiv Goswami. He died 2 years ago. From what you can see now, this spot where he stood here and put petrol on himself and set himself on fire. This is the very spot where I was assaulted because it's a junction of two big hospitals, so it's got kind of symbolic value, and this is where Mrs. Gandhi was brought. This was broadcast, and in the next few weeks, 150 young people tried to commit suicide. A curfew was laid, the country was locked down, and I managed to get permission from the police commissioner to interview 22 of these. This, I think, is the only study of self-immolation at scale. I had very little research training. Going back, I would have done things very differently. Of those 22 we spoke to, 8 died. What was interesting was, not a single one of them had a mental illness. We assume in the West that every case of suicide is automatically mental. What they had was a sense of injustice. It was either a young person who'd been denied entrance into a medical college because they are not lower caste, but someone less able than them has got in, or their father hasn't got a job. So it was all related to injustice, a sense of grievance and injustice. So I became more and more convinced that whatever the mental illness is, some of it is driven by social factors. And then I got a job in Nottingham, actually. I decided to leave India. Ethiopia and Mozambique, I don't know if you remember, in 1989 and 1990, Mozambique and Ethiopia had a massive famine and millions of people starved. WHO was looking, UNO was looking for medical volunteers. So I applied, and I got a job in Ethiopia to go and work as a community doctor, disinfecting wells and giving basic care. 15 days before I was supposed to leave, I got a job offer from Nottingham. And I remember sitting with some friends saying, you know, I was going to go to Ethiopia, but I've just got this chance to go to Nottingham. I wanted to leave India. And he said, look, my geography is not very good, but I think Nottingham is on the way to Ethiopia. Why don't you stop there, see how you feel? I said, okay. So I wrote to the United Nations, please wait, I'll come in 6 months. So I went to Nottingham. Then I said, another 6 months, another 6 months. 6 years passed. And by that time, it was too late. I first went to Ethiopia last year, but I was supposed to go there in 1991. That's how I became a psychiatrist. Mental illness is the largest source of human suffering in medicine. If you don't believe me, I'll give you a personal one example from a patient's mother and then WHO data. I have 2 sons. My oldest son is 22 and is in advanced stage of muscular dystrophy. My younger son is 21 and has been diagnosed as chronically mentally ill. The son who is physically disabled has many special needs. He gets emotional support everywhere he turns. His handicap is visible and obvious to the community, family, and friends. They open their heart to him and go out of their way to make his life better. My other son, on the other hand, is misunderstood and shunned by all. He's also terribly disabled, but his disability is not visible. His grandparents, aunts, uncle, and cousins all think that he's lazy, stupid, weird, and naughty. They suggest that somehow we have made some terrible mistake in his upbringing. When they call on the phone, they ask how his brother is and talk to his brother, but they never inquire about him. He upsets them. They wish he would go away. This is an everyday story, and you will all recognize this. A broken bone is visible. A broken mind is not visible. A broken mind looks scary. We are frightened of it. So we can't empathize with it. We can't understand it. So it repels us. We fear it. Let's assume that we can't define the mind. Let's assume that we don't know what it is, but we know that it's related to the brain, because brain disorders reflect as mental dysfunction. So it's definitely related to the brain. So what are the common mental disorders, and how do psychiatrists recognize them? So I'm going from normal variations of human experience to disease models. So first you have a group of conditions which are not really illnesses. There are deviances from the normal, right? Substance abuse. In England, almost everyone drinks, but not everyone is an alcoholic. It's a question of where society draws line. Homosexuality was a mental illness, and then it became a non-mental illness. There was a vote in American Psychiatric Society. The only time in medicine where a disease became a non-disease by show of hands. And the winning margin was 74. It's not as if everyone was convinced, right? Personality disorders. When I was in India, I had never seen a personality disorder in a psychiatric clinic. In India, if you are a personality disorder, you have a personality disorder and you are not intelligent, you end up in prison. If you have a personality disorder and you are intelligent, you end up in politics. So our personality disorders are in politics or in prison. They are not in psychiatry. I saw my first personality disorder case in UK because it's not recognized as that. It's not a disease. Then you have a group of disorders which are variations of normal human emotions. All of us get anxious from time to time. All of us have thoughts in our head we can't get rid of. All of us have periods when we feel down. All of us can sometimes have imaginary complaints which are related to our worries. All of us can have irrational fears. They are on a spectrum of normal human emotions. They become psychiatric problems only if they impair functioning. If you were walking right now with me in Kruger Park and you were worried about snakes, that should be fine. That's a sensible thing to do. If you are sitting in a high-rise apartment in New York and you will not put your feet on the ground because you think there are snakes, you have a problem. Okay? So these are variations on normal human emotions. Then you have conditions which are qualitatively different. You know, anxiety can be more or less. There can be normal anxiety, there can be abnormal anxiety. But there are conditions which are just not within the normal human range. So schizophrenia or psychotic disorder are conditions which normal experience does not include. They are qualitatively different. If I ask you, have you ever been anxious? You will all say yes. If I ask you, can you hear people talking about you when there's no one around and you feel like killing them, and you say yes, I'll say go and see a psychiatrist. Okay? These are clearly dysfunctions. And these are serious conditions, and they are related to the brain. All of them are related to the brain, but now we are finding more and more and more about the biology of these conditions. And then you have mental disorders, which are directly diseases. They are diseases of the brain. So if you go up the scale, you have conditions which are social norm deviances or exaggerations of human emotions, and you go down the scale, you get more and more the disease model. You have more and more psychological explanations for those on top. You have more and more biological explanations for those at the bottom. You need medication for those at the bottom. You need psychological treatments for those at the top. Psychiatry covers the whole range. No other branch of medicine does. WHO data, depression right now is a leading cause of disability across all age groups. I think it's the third leading cause of disability. I think by 2035, it will be the biggest cause of disability in the world. Suicide kills more people globally than many major cancers. If you have a serious mental illness, you're going to die 20 years younger from preventable causes, largely because you've been neglected, you've been stigmatized, you've been shunned. If the purpose of medicine is to reduce suffering, then we play the biggest role in reducing suffering in medicine. 1 in 4 people will have one of those conditions that I've told you about. We are dealing with 25% of humanity's suffering. And it is also the most neglected area of medicine. Most budgets are less than 5%, some are less than 1%, some are 0.1% of GDP. Over 75% of people with mental illness are untreated in the world. More than 75%. It's a shocking figure. And the big problem is stigma, lack of will. There are no votes in talking about illness. Nobody speaks for them. They don't speak for themselves. They can't speak for themselves. Families are either embarrassed or ashamed or don't know what to do. Think about this. 75% of people with schizophrenia right now in the world are untreated. They are probably chained up somewhere, or they are sleeping rough on the street, or they're in a prison, or they're in a long-stay hospital. There's an amazing paradox in our development. The time in our life when we are physically the most robust, between 16 and 25, we are our most psychologically vulnerable. The time when you have become a Wimbledon champion is the most likely time you will develop schizophrenia. This is days lost by disability. The light green bars are mental illness, and you can see they occur in the early part of life. 50% of all adult mental disorders begin before the age of 16. 75% begin before the age of 25. Most people come to psychiatric care in their 30s, and the opportunity to do something for them is already gone. This is a graph. You just take my word for it. I don't want to. Okay. When I went from surgery to psychiatry, I had the impression that psychiatrists talk to people. That's all they do. What else can you do? And one of my surgical friends, he said, well, I can see why you're doing it. They will not get better. They will not die. You've got a permanent client. You've got a steady supply of money coming to you. Within a week of starting psychiatry, I was astonished at how effective psychiatric drugs were. They are among the most powerful drugs in medicine. If you have a first episode of psychosis and you are given antipsychotics, 9 out of 10 people will improve. Show me another branch of medicine. Show me another drug which the effect is so strong. And there are more randomized controlled trials of antipsychotics than any other drug, any other group of drugs. Antidepressant response is comparable to insulin in diabetes or antihypertensives. Lithium in bipolar disorder reduces suicide by about 70%. Psychotherapy has long-term benefits, but psychotherapy's effects are slow, and sometimes when people are in a crisis, you have to give them medication. Are you with me so far? Are you following? Yeah? Why do we have mental illness? If mental illness makes you, it shuns you, people, you drop out of life, why had it survived? From an evolutionary perspective, something that gives you a disadvantage in survival dies out. There are 2 reasons. The second one I'm not talking about because that's a separate talk. Creativity and mental illness are very closely related. The mentally ill also turn out to be extraordinarily successful. Anyone who has seen the film A Beautiful Mind, and John Nash will know. That's just one example. Van Gogh had bipolar disorder. There's a book called Touched by Fire, which is on the relationship between creativity and mental illness. If you get a time, you should read it. Much of what we call problems are necessary for our life. This is the dodo, right? It used to live in Mauritius. You have heard the term as dead as a dodo? Yeah? You've heard the phrase as dead as a dodo? You know where it comes from? The dodo had no natural predators. It was a big bird. It was a big bird, quite heavy, bulky, but it had never seen humans. So when European sailors landed, they could just walk up to a dodo, catch its neck and twist it, and then get food for a week. They ate all the dodos. Dodo was not anxious of human beings. Dodo died. Anxiety is required for survival. This is Galapagos Island. You go to Galapagos Island and you can walk up to creatures because again, they've not had human predators. It's the best place for photography. The animals are simply not scared of you and they're not scary. If you don't have anxiety, you will not succeed in life. There is a psychological finding from 1908, which is called the Yerkes-Dodson law. Anxiety improves performance till it exceeds your capacity, and then your performance drops. This is the most replicated finding in psychology. So what sports people try and do is they try and stay in the peak zone. Without anxiety, you will not survive. If you hear a rustle, and that's where the autonomic nervous system is. It is autonomic because it's not in control. You hear a rustle in the forest, your body gets ready to fight or flight. You can't sit there and calculate. It could be a snake, it could be wind, it could be nothing. One time that you're wrong, you will get killed. Right? So anxiety is necessary for survival. Take depression. Why do we get sad? There's a very interesting experiment from again 70s. Now those experiments won't be allowed. Martin Seligman, he's still alive. He's a wonderful, wonderful psychologist, but he's quite old now. He did a very interesting experiment. He made a cage which had a barrier. And he put a dog in the cage on one side of the barrier, closed the cage, and then started giving mild electric shocks to the dog. So they were very uncomfortable, and the dogs realized that if they jumped at their receiving electric shocks, So Martin Seligman called that learned helplessness. And he says this is a model for depression. We can deal with difficulties in life. There is some action we can do. We become depressed when no matter what we do, the outcome doesn't change. You see the physical manifestation of dogs in India. This is helplessness. You look into the eyes of this dog, and no matter, it's no one's pet. It gets stoned, nobody feeds it. It's given up. And you can see it in the eyes. You can see in the eyes of that dog. Sadness can provoke a response from those around you to support you. But sometimes you don't have those around you support you, or sometimes your sadness becomes so serious that becomes an illness. Again, sadness is important because it's a social signal, I need help. What is this? Can anyone guess? It's an X-ray of the skull. What does it show? Sorry? Yeah. So how did it get there? So this boy, this is a real story. It's at Cambridge Emergency Hospital, Addenbrooke. This boy walked in, about 18-year-old, and he said he had a headache. He had very severe headache. So the young doctor who was examining him noticed something shiny. He said, "What's that?" Oh, he said, "Oh, that's a nail." And he said, "How did that get there?" He said, "I put it in there." And he said, "Why?" "Oh, I wanted to kill the devil." He was psychotic. He believed that he was possessed by the devil. He had read that the devil could only be killed by driving a stake through it. So he took a 6-inch nail, put the pointy end on his head, and banged it against a wall all the way in. My first few weeks, I've made a film about this case, and it's won the European Best Documentary Award in 2019. I was sitting in a clinic, and this man walks in. I've never seen him before. It was a mad churn of patients, and I just started, and this was a follow-up. I looked at the previous notes, and they said possible command hallucinations, not willing to take medication, keep trying. I didn't know anything else about him. And I said to him, "Are you taking your medication?" And he said, "I don't need to anymore." I said, "Why?" He said, "I've solved my problem." I said, "How did you solve your problem? What is your problem?" And he had his fist closed like this, and he put his hand on the table and opened his fist. It was his penis. He had castrated himself because he was hearing a command hallucination that he should rape his daughter. But he didn't want to do it. So he decided that the only way to protect his daughter was that. Now imagine the torment and suffering. Had this man taken medication for 1 week, this would not have happened. Okay, all of these mental illnesses are driven by 3 central systems in our brain. One is the drive system, which wants us to seek things, which is dopamine driven. One is a soothing system where we want comfort, and that is oxytocin driven. And one is a threat system, which is adrenaline driven, and the mood system is serotonergic driven. There is a chemical basis for all of these, but those chemical balances go haywire because of your social circumstances. Okay? So psychiatry is an interesting intersection between what happens to you in life and how your body responds to it, but how your mind responds to it. Okay? We restore life. We restore relationships. We restore agency. We restore work, meaning, hope. There is nothing more heartwarming than seeing someone who was trying to hang himself a few weeks and now wants to live. I'm going to share a personal story with you. We had to go to South India during my training for forensic psychiatry, which is people who are in prison. And there was no forensic psychiatry in Punjab where I was training. So I had to go to Chennai, Bangalore. Bangalore had the biggest psychiatric hospital. And Bangalore was this very large, it's a center of excellence for neurosurgery, neurology, and psychiatry. And I was there for 2 weeks, and that was the week that India's first pub had opened. Pub, to drink beer. There were no pubs in India before that. You know, the pub where you could buy bottles of beer. We'd seen in movies, you know, this Western cowboy walks in and somebody pours him a beer, and I wanted that experience. But I had never been to the city before. I knew where the pub was, the name of the road. So I was walking through the hospital ground, and this young man was walking. He was about 18, and I asked him, I said, do you know where this road is? He said, I'm not from here. I'm also looking for it. So I said, okay, we can walk together, we'll look for it. We started talking. And he said he was a student, and he was visiting from a nearby city. And then he said to me, can I ask you something? I said, go on. He said, is life worth living? And we were just walking. I didn't even think of his question seriously. I said, I'm recalling, I can't exactly. I said something like, you know, we didn't choose to be born. I think we should not choose to die. We should let nature take its course. Life is worth living or not, I think, is like you have a diary. Every day is a new page. You can write your life story every day, right? So life is worth living if you write a good story every day. I think that's what I said. I'm not 100% sure. 18 months later, I left for England. 2 years later, I got a letter. It had gone to that Bangalore hospital, who had sent it to Chandigarh, where I trained, who sent it to my parents, who sent it to England. It was a letter from this boy. He said, you will not remember me, but I met you and I asked you, is life worth living? And I now feel I can share this with you. He was on his way to kill himself by throwing himself in front of a bus. He was an only child, and he had developed schizophrenia, and his parents had brought him to this center of excellence, and he was admitted, and in front of him, the psychiatrist said to his parents, your boy will never recover. He will never return to university. You can forget about all that. He's got schizophrenia. And he says, I looked around in the ward, and the chronic patients are in their 50s and 60s. And he said, do I want to live like this? He said, I'm going to kill myself. But he was an only child. He didn't want to hurt his parents. So he said, I argued myself. Then I couldn't decide, so I said, okay, I'll go to MG Road. The first person I meet, I'll ask, is life worth living? If they give me an answer that makes me think life is worth living, I'll come back. I had no idea of this. I had absolutely no idea. You do not know how powerful a little comfort is, even comfort of strangers. It's very powerful. He said, I recovered, I'm finishing my degree, I'm going to take over my father's business. I don't take any credit for it because he recovered because of medication. But he should have been given hope. I would like to take the psychiatrist who said that thing outside and shoot him. This is a true video recording. You'll see this friend of mine called Manoj. He used to be with me in England. He went back to India. He's from Kerala. And I do fundraising for him, right? He goes from village to village looking for people who have untreated schizophrenia, okay? It's only 2 minutes, so please bear with me.
ഉമ്മ വിളിച്ചാൽ മാത്രം ജാലകപ്പഴുതിലൂടെ മുഖം കാണിക്കും.
13 വയസ്സ് തുടങ്ങിയത്, അപ്പൊ 29 വയസ്സും എന്നെ കഴിഞ്ഞു. തുണികുപ്പായും ചീന്തുക, പാത്രം കേടെടുത്തുക, മനുഷ്യനെ കാട്ടുക, കടിച്ചുക, മാന്തുക ഒക്കെ ചെയ്യും. ഇപ്പൊ ആക്കായതല്ലേ. പിന്നെ ഞങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ടില്ല, പിന്നുള്ള ചികിത്സ ചെയ്യാത്തതൊന്നുമില്ല. എന്തൊന്നും ഇപ്പൊ പറയാൻ മുടിയാറില്ല. ഈ 17 കൊല്ലത്തിന്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് 18 കൊല്ലത്തിന്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് ഇപ്പൊ എത്രമാതിരി ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ്.
4 വരെ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് കുഞ്ഞൻ. പതുക്കെ സ്വഭാവം മാറി തുടങ്ങി. ആരെയും എന്തിനേയും പകയോടെ ആക്രമിക്കും. എങ്ങോട്ടെന്നില്ലാതെ ഓടിപ്പോകാൻ തുടങ്ങിയപ്പോൾ വീട്ടുകാർ തീരുമാനിച്ചു കുഞ്ഞനെ പൂട്ടിയിടാൻ. അരുമയോടെ ജനലരികിൽ വിളിച്ച് പല്ലുതേപ്പിച്ച് കുളിപ്പിച്ച് ദിവസേന മുറി വൃത്തിയാക്കി ചുമരിലെ ഈ പഴുതിലൂടെ ഭക്ഷണം നൽകി ഉമ്മ കുഞ്ഞനെ പോറ്റി. മുറിക്കകത്തു നിന്നുയരുന്ന നിലവിളിയായി, പ്രതിഷേധ സ്വരങ്ങളായി, വല്ലപ്പോഴും മൂളുന്ന പാട്ടുകളായി പുറം ലോകം കുഞ്ഞന്റെ സാന്നിധ്യം നോക്കി. മനോരോഗവും ചികിത്സിച്ചാൽ ഭേദമാകുന്ന അസുഖം മാത്രമാണെന്ന നാട്ടുകാരിൽ ചിലരുടെ തിരിച്ചറിവാണ് ജീവിതത്തിലേക്ക് തിരികെ പിച്ചവയ്ക്കാൻ കുഞ്ഞന് തുണയായത്. എങ്ങനെയുണ്ട്? ജാലകപ്പഴുതിലൂടെയാണ് ഡോക്ടറും കുഞ്ഞനെ കാണുന്നത്. എന്തൊക്കെയുണ്ട്? ആദ്യഘട്ടത്തിൽ ചികിത്സ വെല്ലുവിളിയായിരുന്നു. മുടക്കമില്ലാതെ ചിരകളിലെത്തിയ മരുന്ന് മാസങ്ങൾക്കകം കുഞ്ഞനെ ശാന്തനാക്കി. ഒന്നര വർഷം നീണ്ട ചികിത്സയ്ക്കൊടുവിൽ ജീവിതത്തിലേക്ക് തിരിച്ചു വരികയാണ് കുഞ്ഞൻ. മറന്നുപോയ വാക്കുകൾ ഓർത്തെടുത്ത് വഴങ്ങാത്ത നാവിന് മെരുക്കാൻ പാടുപെട്ട് സംസാരിച്ചും എഴുന്നേൽക്കാനും നടക്കാനും മറന്നുപോയ ശോഷിച്ച കാലുകളിൽ പതുക്കെ നിവർന്നു നിന്നും ജീവിതത്തിലേക്ക് പിച്ചവെച്ചു.
This is not unusual. Right now, several hundred people in Ibadan will be in this state, I can assure you. Antipsychotics are cheap. Everybody can afford them. The other reason for doing psychiatry is if you're interested in more than just biology. Psychiatry is where biology meets meaning. So, as a psychiatrist, I have to know neuroscience, I have to understand consciousness, psychology, social context, ethics, law, human rights, philosophy of mind, free will, responsibility, spiritual suffering, guilt, forgiveness, hope. If you have a broader interest than just treating a broken bone, psychiatry is for you. Because we may have different meanings to illness, what we say to illness, biologically we are the same. This is how, this is how antidepressants work. I was saying in a lecture yesterday, in Buddhism, Buddha said that the sole cause of suffering is existence. Because you exist, you have desires, and if you crave desires, and if you crave things that are transient, you will never be fulfilled. So to be human is to suffer. Now if the Dalai Lama or Buddha became seriously depressed and came to my clinic, and I said, you've got major depressive episode, and said, no, this is karma. I'm suffering because I'm human. I'd say, okay, take fluoxetine, okay? Your belief is true, take it, they'll get better. So the meaning doesn't matter, I think it doesn't matter, but the biology is the same. So psychiatry drugs work across all cultures because we are fundamentally, biologically the same, and because human suffering is universal. Suffering is what unites us. And the other thing that happens is that more psychiatry you do, the more you realize that your great-grandparents were right. Great-grandparents were right, that your ancient wisdoms were right. This is what is called the Platonic model of the soul. This is from a Socratic dialogue called Phaedrus. And this is Phaedrus asking Socrates, what is? And Socrates said that the mind is like a chariot pulled by two horses. One is emotion and one is reason. And the rider has to keep the horses in check. Otherwise they'll pull apart and the chariot will break and you will die. So this is what we call to choose between the heart and the mind. And that's why teenagers take risks. Now we know that different parts of the brain age at different times. When your parents say, don't keep bad company, they are using an ancient wisdom. Because the moment you become a teenager, the part of your brain that is sensation seeking really drives up. The part of your brain that says restrain, that is going to come at 25. And you are going to be influenced by your peers. There's an Indian model of psyche. I've just written a paper on this. I'm going to submit it, which is the same model, but a much more detailed one. And in that, the person riding the chariot is the soul, the spirit. The body is the chariot, the senses are the horses, and the mind is what is being driven. Behind the mind is buddhi, intellect. So the soul has to watch that the intellect teaches the mind how to restrain the horses. This is from the Upanishads 5,000 years ago. Neuroscience is telling us what our ancestors knew. There are some questions in medicine that only psychiatrists confront. What is a person? What does it mean to be a person? What does it mean to be a human? Where does personhood lie? When is someone responsible for their actions? The boy who put that nail in his head or the man who cut his penis? Are they responsible? The boy killed his neighbor was the devil. Is he responsible or is he not responsible? Where does free will end and illness take over? What does it mean to suffer meaninglessly? And I could tell you story after story after story. We are the only doctors who can lock up. I didn't become a psychiatrist to lock people up, but I have to do. Every time I have to ask an ethical question. How much coercion for what benefit? With locking people up against their will is a deep infringement of their violation or their rights. We have to make that decision every day. Where does illness end and identity begin? And we have to ask that during recovery. Is this person back to full personhood? Or is there still some mental illness remaining, and often you can't tell? Psychiatry is therefore the moral core of medicine. We look after those who no one looks after. I'm ending. In less than 10 minutes, I'm finishing. Okay. There's a very interesting dilemma, there's a very interesting finding in the West. As the West is getting more and more prosperous, its young people are getting more and more depressed and anxious. And politicians are really struggling. What should we do? What should we do? What should we do? And some say this is nonsense. This is just psychiatrists expanding their role. Others are saying, no, something has happened. Family has broken down. Institutions like church or respect for elders, they have gone. Discipline has gone. Sense of moral authority has gone. So there are two different camps. And I saw this beautiful observation last time I was in India about these two women talking. One is saying, how can you be depressed when life is so beautiful? And the other one is saying, well, how can you have asthma when there is so much air? Right? They are depressed because they can't get the air that they need to sustain themselves. And that pollution of that air is the social breakdown. The social breakdown. Okay, final 2 slides. No, yeah, final 3 slides. Not all of you should become a psychiatrist, right? We need surgeons. We need some surgeons, right? If you are interested in the big questions, what is it to be human? What is the mind? What is the self? You should become a psychiatrist. If you like other human beings, if you are nosy, if you are interested in people, if you can emotionally relate to people, if you can empathize with those who are difficult to understand. From childhood, my friends have brought their problems to me. I realized later there was something about me that helped people trust me and disclose their problems. Do you like being more than one speciality? Science has reached speciality to the levels of ridiculousness. If you want to be an expert on the sex life of a left-handed polar bear, you'll find that somebody has done a PhD on it already. And that's why new scientific findings are so hard. We've over-specialized. So if you are a generalist, you want to be more than a single issue person, it's for you. But most importantly, you have to be uncertain. and able to handle. When I was a surgeon, sir, you are very modest. I was very cocky. I was very arrogant as a surgeon. I was very arrogant. And psychiatry has taken all that arrogance out of me. Because the more I know what I do not know. Every patient I meet, I learn something that I did not know before. As a surgeon, even a young surgeon, I thought I knew it all. And especially if you like humanity. So my recent talk, as we revealed, we've been making movies. We've been making plays about mental illness. And because I wanted to be, actually I wanted to be an English teacher. I love poetry. So I wanted to teach poetry. And that was my passion. And now I've come full time. And working with patients has made me realize what afflicts me. Why am I drawn to children? And I can now make sense looking back at my own childhood. I was burnt as a child. And that's why those children whose fathers got burnt just shook me. I'd forgotten all about it. I made a connection only a few years back. On a positive note, this is a BBC documentary, and you can listen to it, on the 30th anniversary of Mrs. Gandhi's assassination. I had spoken about that boy. Remember that boy I told you? I spoken about it. There was a Holocaust. They'd asked me to come and talk about trauma and collective memory. I spoke about that boy. Someone from BBC was sitting there, and she came to me and she said, "What happened to that boy?" I said, "I don't know. He will be, 43, 44 now?" She said, "Why don't we go and find him?" So we went back. And what we found, we broadcast at the same time when Mrs. Gandhi was killed, on the 31st of October morning. We went there, and I look very different now. I was young, good looking, fit, with a turban, and one of them recognized me. And then somebody showed me they had kept my clinic notes. Clinic notes. That is my diary. I had forgotten it existed. It meant something to them, so one of them had kept it. I think one of my friends kept it. And one of the boys said, "I remember you." And I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes, I remember you used to come." And then he named my friend. "You used to come with Meeta Didi." I said, "That's right, I used to come with Meeta Didi." And he said, "You were the only one who made us feel that someone still cared for us." We couldn't find that boy. We think he may have committed suicide eventually. Okay? But these people have survived, rebuilt their lives. But when you look into their eyes, something is dead. Okay, I'm going to end with a quiz. Who knows what this is? Oh, who knows what this is? What is the name of this painting? Where is it? Quick, it's not a trick question. You've all seen it.
It's Michelangelo painting.
Of?
I can't really remember.
What's the name of the painting?
I can't remember.
Okay, what does it show?
It shows that person is representing God.
Okay. I change somebody else. Let's give somebody else a chance. You're right. It's Michelangelo's painting. Where is it? Where is this painting?
Is it Finger of God?
Sistine Chapel. That's right. That's right.
No, yes, that's what I said.
No,
I
you
said
said
Finger of
Sistine
God. I said Finger of God, sir.
Birth of Adam. It's called the Birth of Adam. And
Okay.
it's called the Birth of Adam, and it is in the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. Once in your life, you should visit the Vatican to see this. It's on a inside of a bowl, which is the top of the building. Michelangelo painted it lying on his back for 6 months. It is the greatest work of human art ever, without a doubt. Now, so this is God giving life. Here, the spark of life is passing from God to man. What do you find unusual about the figure of God here? Anyone want to guess? When I show you what it is, you will say, why didn't I see it? I don't think you do. Okay? Let me show you.
Okay, the finger of God is obviously extended, while the man is as if he's in a relaxed mode, not even trying to make any effort to meet the finger of God.
Well, that may be true, but that's not the answer I'm looking for. I'm looking for a different answer.
Tell us, Prof.
It is the brain.
The brain.
Michelangelo, the more closely you look at the painting, the more and more and more you find. Michelangelo was also a superb dissectionist. So this is Michelangelo saying, God's gift is not just life, it's consciousness. The moment you see it, you can't unsee it. Next time you see this, you will remember. And there are now, a person spotted it, a Jewish psychiatrist spotted it some years ago, wrote an article, and now you can go onto the internet, and more people have analyzed it. The more closely you analyze it, the more anatomically correct it is. Right? Psychiatry makes you interested in these things. That's why you should become a psychiatrist. Thank you.
Please just stand up. Stand up for the champion, for the champion. Stand up, stand up. Wow. Thank you so much. You may be seated. I have received a real treat this morning. I now see, I've worked with Professor Singh for 4 years now, and the layers keep unfolding and unraveling, and I'm beginning to understand so many things, different perspectives, your compassion, your wanting to help, you're coming into this profession of mental health psychiatry, which is, like you said, you need to have empathy. And not only that, it's the most artistic part of medicine. So your creativity, your poetry, your love for art, for writing, comes into play. And that's why I've also noticed that a lot of the psychiatrists also have other creative skills. Many of them are great musicians, artists, writers, and so on. The jigsaw is coming together. Thank you so much. Let's give him another round of applause. I'm aware that our time is fast spent, and I know the provost was here before everyone. I would want him to give some of remarks so that after that he's not, so maybe we'll just take some, Prof, you may want to have your seat. We'll take some remarks from members of the executive committee, and then we'll take other remarks, and then we'll go into our, we're going to watch some short movies that were put together from our Transform grants. So thank you very much, sir. Mr. Provost. Thank you.
Well, let me come up there. Well, I do recognize everyone here. starting from members of the college management and exco. I recognize our former provost, the one and only Professor Olayinka Omigodu. And I acknowledge everyone here, including visitors from outside. You are most welcome to the College of Medicine, all our students and members of the consortium that is organizing this. And most importantly, our visitor, the Nigerian Indian here, Professor Singh. Is life worth living? Thank you very much. Is life worth living? At least we had that question from him. And that a broken bone is sin, but a broken mind is not sin. All right? We have also heard that mental illnesses are the chronic diseases of the young. And that God's gift is not just life, but it's consciousness. According to Paul in the, not Paul, King Agrippa, when Paul was defending himself before King Agrippa and one of the Roman rulers then, the King Agrippa said, Paul, you almost make me to become a Christian. And I dare say the same thing that Professor Singh, you almost make me to become a psychiatrist. Perhaps it's too late for me to choose psychiatry now, except that I don't know if you are going to do a crash program of 1 year for me to get the fellowship to the West African College of Physicians in Psychiatry. But it's been a very interesting morning stroke afternoon, and I can see so many of our students becoming psychiatrists, and I hope the psychiatric department will have vacancies for all of you to become residents in psychiatry. I hope that the Dean of Clinical Sciences and other deans here will not be jealous of the Department of Psychiatry, but this has been a very wonderful and illuminating afternoon. There's no doubt that psychiatric illnesses are just as what the professor has presented. They are everywhere. And with the opportunity I've had in the last 2, 3, or 4 years as a member of the management of the College of Medicine, as dean, and also as provost, and with the experience outside, even in religious circles, in society, amongst family members, you see that, you find out that there are many people around with psychiatric disorders, and especially amongst the young. So I thank the psychiatrists for all you do, and I commend you for that, and I encourage as many, all right, or have been motivated this to take up this very important discipline. So on behalf of the College of Medicine, I thank you very much for this illuminating lecture and for stimulating all of us, all right? And also for making us to appreciate our psychiatrists more and to give them the due respect that they deserve. And so don't be surprised if you all find out tomorrow that I become. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my provost. Bless you. Thank you. While the Professor Singh was speaking, so some other members of the executive committee arrived, so they would be the ones to stay on. I don't know if the Secretary College have very brief remarks, or we should ask the students, or you have brief comments and the dean. No? But you are now thinking, maybe I should become a psychiatrist. But my dean, I think even if you are not a psychiatrist, every health professional should have basic skills of mental health. Absolutely. Even in your approach to interviewing your patients. Respectfully, I remember once, it's a very personal story too. My late mother was terminally ill, and she was in one of the wards here with CA breast. And a senior registrar in surgery was on a ward round with other residents and students. I had flown in from the US. I'd been in the US for several years, and because of the illness, I came in. So I don't think they knew me, but that's not even the issue. And I was sitting by my mother's bedside, and this team of doctors came in, the surgeons. And they arrived. They didn't even greet either myself or ask who I was, or really acknowledge her, and they proceeded with their examination. So they looked, they examined, and then he turned to the house officer and said, "General condition, poor." The house was like, "Yes." "Oh, it's not funny, it's not funny." And went on to, this was 1997. I stopped the ward round as a caregiver. I stopped that ward round. And I said, "Excuse me, can I see you outside?" I stopped it because I know my rights as a patient caregiver. You're not going to talk. And immediately he said, "General condition, poor." She started saying, "In Jesus' name, my condition is not poor. It's not," you understand? He was what? Provoking distress. You may be, and this doesn't just apply to surgery or, I mean, many times you find one of the things that struck me that Professor Swaran Singh said. He said, when he was a surgeon, he used to think he was like a mini god. He said it was arrogant. I don't know if we caught that. And that's not, it's not just about surgeons. I need the partnership with my surgical. But he said one of the things that going into psychiatry did was it put on the human face. Because what the surgeon forgot was that, 2 weeks' time or 3, I could be the one on that bed. And the point I'm driving is that and that's why you do a posting in psychiatry. But you have to internalize it so that it affects every area of your life. And this is not just for doctors, for nurses, even for the gatekeepers, the gatesmen at the hospital. By the time, some people have told me, by the time I come into the hospital, by the time I'm going, I'm so exhausted and I'm feeling depressed. Because everywhere I've gone, somebody has shouted on me and cast me aside. These are real things that we need to deal with. But I just want to acknowledge the presence of the Dean of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, the first faculty, Professor Ronke Odunola. Thank you very much, ma. And the Director of the Institute for Medical Research and Training, Professor Ike Oluwa Ajayi. Thank you so much for joining us. So before we move on to the next item, Psychiatry College, you want to comment in your role as a pastor or as administrator?
Well, thank you very much. Just to join the provost and other members to appreciate Professor Singh for that excellent lecture. And I also want to use this opportunity to appreciate the psychiatry team in the university. And of course, with this kind of support, I believe the mindset and the attitude of people towards those who have nervous issues or mental issues or psychiatric issues, whichever you choose, I believe the attitude is changing. And I really want to appreciate you for that. I think mental awareness is gaining more attention and prominence. In fact, for the college, we have this monthly workshop for a well-informed workforce. And a kind of awareness like this is something we have programmed. I was discussing with Dr. Bella Usa. We were discussing that yesterday. So I really want to thank you for the excellent work you are doing. And just like you rightly said, we have people who are affected all around us. And we are not all complete. We are complete in God. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask, we're going to show the first, just a short video clip, but I want the students in particular, if you have questions, I want you to write your questions, or if you have, or think about them, so that after that first video, we will take. We'll do it. Okay. Watch. Let's after the first day. Okay. So please, if you have questions, write them down. If you can, or if you want to speak or think about it. But let's watch. Is the media team ready? You are ready? Okay. So let's just be quiet and watch this. Prof, you can please sit here. And this is based on a real life story. This is based on a real life story. So let's watch it. Thank you.
I love my daughter very much. But sometimes it's not easy being a mother. Some days I feel like I'm holding my breath, just watching, hoping, praying. I wait for signs. I look at her face and wonder if today will be a good day or if the storm is coming again. Temilade was always special. From when she was a child, she brought me joy. She smiled easily and asked many questions. A teacher said she was gifted. At home, she was calm, helpful, and full of love. I raised her mostly by myself. My father and I never really lived together. I worked in offices and later farming, doing everything I could to provide. No matter how hard life got, I believed she would do well. And for many years, she did. She finished university and even completed a master's degree. She taught in a private school in our city where we lived. She was smart and disciplined. But sometime around 2019, I started noticing changes. She called me one day. She was upset. She said, "Mommy, this life doesn't make sense anymore. With all my education, I'm still sweeping somebody's compound." She cried a lot that day. She said she wanted to go somewhere and learn something useful, maybe tailoring, maybe something that would give her a sense of purpose. I didn't argue. I just told her to pray and stay strong. Then one day, she left. She sent me a message that said, "Don't worry, I'm not missing, but I'm tired of life. Please don't come looking for me." That was the day everything changed. I was so afraid. I cried and cried. I carried a younger brother with me. We went to our pastor. We searched everywhere. At first, I thought she was in the city where we lived. But after so much effort, we traced her to a religious camp in Imo State. She had gone there for what she said was a prayer and a learning program. I went there with her younger brother. When we arrived, I was shocked. During one of the services, the leader of the camp called her out in front of the whole congregation. He accused her of being a witch. People began to stare at us. I knelt down on the floor and begged them. I was ashamed. My daughter was not like that. She just wanted to find peace. We brought her home, but she still needed help. She insisted on going back. When she came back home, she looked even more confused. She was afraid and unsettled. It was then that I knew something was truly wrong. She began acting in strange ways. She would sing loudly and dance while beating. She would talk very fast, jumping from one thought to another. She heard voices that no one else could hear. She said people were watching her through the walls. Sometimes she would stare at the ceiling for hours. Other times she cried uncontrollably. There were nights she would not sleep. She would say things like, "They're coming for me," or "You want to harm me." One night, she pushed me out of the way and locked herself in the bathroom. Another time, she ran out into the streets barefoot early in the morning. We eventually found her near the market, confused and crying. That was when I was advised by our church overseer to take her to the hospital. We went to a hospital in our city. The doctors there admitted her for 5 weeks. They said she was experiencing a serious mental health condition. They gave her medicine. They explained some things to me. I was scared, but I was also relieved. At least for the first time, I felt like we were not alone. Little by little, she began to return to herself. She started sleeping again. She started eating. She talked more calmly. I began to see my daughter again. After she was discharged, we tried to rebuild. She came home for a while. She helped around the house. She picked up a sewing machine again. Then she moved to Ibadan to live with her brother. Later, she got married. Those were peaceful months for us. She was taking her medicine. She seemed happy. She and her husband had a child. I visited them from time to time. We talked on the phone, but deep down, I was always watching, always dreading. Then the signs returned. She became silent again. She stopped going to work. She accused me and her husband of plotting against her. She said I was a witch.
I can't find my
She said her husband tried poisoning her. She said he wanted to ruin her, that we had charms, we're using charms. One day she left the house with her baby and did not return. We searched again. Her phone was on and off. She had deleted all contacts from her phone. After a month, with the help from the bank and some hotel staff, we found her somewhere in Lagos, in Ikorodu. She had locked herself in that hotel for a whole day. Her baby was crying and she wasn't responsive. The staff broke the window to get in. She looked pale and confused. She had not eaten. She said she was fine, but she was not. We took her to the tertiary hospital in the city where she was working. She was placed in the women's ward. I was thankful. The staff knew her history. They treated her kindly. Slowly, she recovered again. It's not easy caring for her. The illness shows itself in many ways. She hears voices. She has strange beliefs. Sometimes she stops bathing. She talks about people plotting against her. She gets angry quickly. She can become aggressive or completely withdrawn. Some days, she sings and plays with her child. Other days, she stares at nothing or just murmurs to herself. I've learned to watch closely. If she stops sleeping or starts talking too much, I know a crisis may be near. If she goes silent, I know questions to ask gently. I don't take the insults she gives personally. I know it's not her. It's the illness. The burden is heavy. Our drugs cost money. I have loans I took to care for her and her younger brother. I farm cassava and soya beans. I sell what I can, but it is never enough. Sometimes kind neighbors help. Sometimes I borrow. Other times we just manage. I am tired, but I keep going. And now, something gives me hope again. Temilade has gone back to work. She's part of a research team that listens to people who have experienced mental illness. She helps others now. She's what they call a peer researcher. She shares her story, she listens to others, she helps the doctors understand what it feels like from the inside. It amazes me. When she takes her medicine and keeps her appointment, she does well. She reads, she writes, she asks questions. The same girl who once wandered into the night is now helping people who feel lost. This gives me strength. It tells me that with the right care, people can heal. They may not be exactly who they were before, but they can live well. They can find meaning. It is my job as a mother to worry, but I also see how far she has come.
So, thank you very much to the Transform team for that. We still have, we're going to have a quick presentation now by the provost, the dean on behalf of the provost. But please, let's stay seated. There's a lot to come. We're going to have our, listen to some presentations of the work that has been done by our PhD students on one of the grants where Professor Swaran is the overall principal investigator. And we'll be taking the first presentation on, well, she will tell us about her presentation immediately after this presentation by the provost and the management team. Thank you very much. So Professor Swaran, the provost has, the Dean of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences is going to. Our traditional healers should wait too. Huh? Because we're almost done. Oh, okay. Okay, because we're going to feature you now. Okay. Let me give you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Well, on behalf of the Provost of the College of Medicine, members of management and executive, the entire staff and students of the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, we present this to you in appreciation of your visit to Ibadan and all that you've been doing, and especially today, that you have made all of us desire to either become psychiatrists or understand psychiatry better. Thank you so much.
I'm going to crave your indulgence. Professor Swaran has a presentation not to the college, but to one of our schools. We've been waiting for them. I thought they would come in time. You know, we have one of our projects, which is funded by the National Institute for Health Research in the United Kingdom, NIHR. And we've been working in schools. We've been doing, it's like to promote well-being. I think I spoke about it when I came to the office of the provost with Professor Swaran. We are doing mental health interventions. We're also doing nutritional interventions and gardening. So we've been setting up gardens around schools in Ibadan. The first school we oil at the bottom. The oil is nearby oxygen plant. I don't know what is there. But apparently I think that place belongs to the hospital. I'm sure the hospital is not aware, you know, that water, oil is seeping and contaminating the well. So in the school there's no other source of water. And in his usual manner, Professor Swaran suddenly said, how much is this going to cost? And he's going to make that sacrifice to dig a new well in the school. So the school had written to ask, and he has the response in the letter. So I'm going to ask, the vice principal is here, and I think it's because the SHINE grants, the SHINE grant is housed in the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan. So we are going to oversee the, of a new well on his behalf through the grant, which is housed in the college. I think it's nice if you are physically present here while I call Mrs. Falano. She's the vice principal, and so if you can quickly introduce yourself and then Professor Swaran will give you the letter. I don't know if he wants to read part of it.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mrs. Falana, Vice Principal of IMG Grammar School, opposite CCAMH Ibadan, with my colleague, Mr.
My name is Komolafe Oluseun Olalua. I happen to be the school counselor. Thank you.
We really appreciate you. Thank you for the gifts. It's a big gift that we received. And we are very, very grateful for the program that you brought to our school. We teachers and the students really enjoyed the program. And we have told you that we will like to proceed with you with the program, by the grace of God.
Thank you very much. So, Professor Swaran, you can just to give her the...
I don't need to say anything.
To present. Okay, I can just read excerpts. So, the cost of the new well, is 763,267 Nigerian naira. So Professor Swaran is writing through me, and he says he acknowledges your letter requesting assistance for the sinking of a new well within the premises of IMG Grammar School, Yemetu Ibadan, following pollution of the existing well and the consequent risk to the health of students. I'm pleased to inform you that I have agreed to support this initiative in recognition of the importance of safe water for the well-being of students and the wider school community. The support will be provided through Professor Olayinka Olushola, Director of the Center for Child and Adolescent Mental Health at the University of Ibadan, which is implementing the SHINE project in your school. And he says, I will donate. He has indicated what and the equivalent. He says the utilization, coordination, and supervision of this intervention will be managed by the SHINE Nigeria project team in line with its existing engagement with the school. On completion of the well, a formal written confirmation should be submitted to the SHINE project team. In addition, clear photographs of the completed well will be required for records and reporting purposes. And I commend the school for prioritizing the health and welfare of the students and look forward to the successful completion of the intervention. So he will hand over the letter to you. Let me move this way. So,
I feel a bit embarrassed. It's a personal, it's not a personal donation. Yeah, so I was so touched by the stories of the children, and I was very touched by the stories of the children I heard, and how the school staff are working hard against such challenges and obstacles. And those could be my children. In India, there's a saying that you can see God in the face of every child. And the idea that in that hot, humid weather, the children had no drinking water, I just thought, look, I can't change the world, but there's a small thing I can do which will make a difference. So
So thank you very much. Thank you, Prof. You can take yours. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. So, Prof, this is your own copy. Yeah. Your own. So we'll just quickly go and, Adiola, if you hide behind this thing, we won't see you. Breathe in, out. Breathe in, out. Adiola Oduguwa Ayo came to the Center for Child and Adolescent Mental Health in 2014 as a student. And she excelled at the center graduated in 2015. She came with a background of a Bachelor of Science in Education. She from the University of Lagos. I could see outstanding results. She had outstanding results. And even before she completed her training at the Center for Child and Adolescent Mental Health, I had employed her because I supervised her master's thesis, which is published, by the way. And when I supervised her, she was so teachable and learned so fast. I now got her to supervise members of her class who are having difficulty. And from then on, Adiola would help supervise other master's students. She also helped to supervise students I was supervising who were working on the fellowship for the West African College of Physicians. So before I would go through the work, many times she would work with me. And she has been a project manager. She's also excellent in administration, research, finance, accounting. So she works extremely hard in the center. And she has done that for many, many years. Some of you may know her younger brother. He was one of the top 10 in his class. He graduated about 2 or 3 years ago from this. And by the way, I think he's doing, he got a scholarship to do this master's card scholarship to study neuroscience at the University of Oxford. So he has finished his master's and should be moving on to do a PhD. So when the grant came from the Transform, and it offered us 2 PhD positions, she was, and we looked at, for top candidates, she was top of the list to work and do a PhD on Transform. And so she's going to be presenting some of the work she has done. I must say that she's been working so hard, and she has, you know, I really commend her for making this effort, because I know how hard she works to put time aside to be able to do this. So Adiola, I appreciate you, and over to you for your short presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ma. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to stand on existing protocols. Like Prof said, I'm going to be presenting my work, which is based on the Transform project. We've heard lectures about people with serious mental illnesses in the last few days, and this afternoon I'm going to be talking about a part of what happens to children when their parents have serious mental illnesses, which is what I've done for my PhD work in 4 years. I'll present using this outline. I'll skip this because Prof already did that. Serious mental illnesses are illnesses that are characterized by functional impairment, which significantly inhibits one or more life major activities, including parenting. Studies have shown that 75% of persons with serious mental illnesses are parents, and 60% of them take sole custody of their children. Children of parents with serious mental illnesses are mostly overlooked and unrecognized. So why is it important? Studies have also shown that early years form the solid foundation for later life, and exposure to parental serious mental illnesses during this period can be a source of significant stressors that negatively impact on an individual's well-being. And children of persons with serious mental illnesses in slums are doubly vulnerable. And so my research work, my overall aim was to determine the well-being, experiences, intervention needs, and strategies for young people whose parents have serious mental illnesses in slum communities. And I did that in 2 broad objectives. The first was to map existing data on the well-being of children of persons with serious mental illnesses in low and middle income countries using a scoping review. That was my work package 1. And then the work package 2 was to determine the well-being, experiences, intervention needs, and strategies for children whose parents have serious mental illnesses in slum communities in southwest Nigeria, using a mixed method study. So for my scoping review, these were my questions. I wanted to know the study characteristics and methodologies of researches that have been done about children whose parents have serious mental illnesses, and I also wanted to see what themes have been explored. So we searched 9 databases and generated 14,587 articles. Of these articles, 47 of them met the inclusion criteria. Majority of the articles were journal publications, there were dissertations, there were conference abstracts as well. The 47 articles were from 12 countries in low and middle income countries across 5 continents. Some of the findings were that majority of the publication recruited children of parents in biomedical care, people who were already accessing care. And there was just only 1 article that reported findings of an intervention trial. None of the studies examined slum populations, and only few studies explored the well-being from the perspective of the children and their support networks. The most common that was examined was mental and emotional well-being, and there was a huge focus on psychopathology. Other domains of well-being, such as environmental, spiritual, and economic well-being, were grossly underrepresented. And so for my work package 2, what I did differently was to conduct a convergent mixed method study to highlight the voices of children and their parents and their support networks. I also focused on children of parents with serious mental illnesses in slums, examined broader domains, and explored perspectives of children, like I said earlier. And so these were the questions I wanted to answer for my work package 2. The mixed method study was conducted here in Ibadan. Parents were recruited from the University College Hospital and the Adeoyo State Hospital. We had a case and a control group. The controls were matched to the children by age and gender. In total, we had 45 parents who had serious mental illnesses and 59 parents without serious mental illnesses who were recruited from the community. And then we have 59 children whose parents have serious mental illnesses, and a control group, also 59. We also conducted qualitative interviews. In total, we had 45 parents from the hospitals. Majority of the parents were recruited from Adeoyo State Hospital. A higher proportion of them, 84%, were females. 42% of them had experienced hospital admission. Half of them had experienced a relapse, and half of them had been in care for at least 10 years. About 3/4 of them started experiencing their mental health condition after childbearing. Most of them, 60% of them, did not discuss their mental health condition with their children. 60% of them were also concerned about their children, and that same proportion reported that they received they received support for childcare, and that was mostly from family members, from friends, from colleagues. Some of the quotes from the mothers, from the parents are here. My mom takes care of my daughter in terms of feeding, education, and every other need. And there's another mother with serious mental illness who was 47 at the time we met her. She says, my brothers and sisters-in-law also support us with feeding. In comparison with parents who do not have serious mental illnesses, a higher proportion of the participants in the control group, the parents now in the control group, reported that they had a source of income, which included whether they were employees or they had some kind of menial jobs that they were doing. And more participants in the case group reported that they had to borrow money in the previous year to be able to make ends meet. For the children, there were more males, slightly more males, 50% of them, about 51.5 actually. And then the mean age of the children was 18.3. For children, when the parents with the mental illness, because we asked who do you live with presently, when the parents with the mental illness was the father, all of them lived with their parents, either single parents or both parents. But when the parents with the mental illness is the mother, 67% of them lived with their mother. And then we went further to explore when they live with their parents, who exactly do they live with? When it's the father who has the serious mental illness, none of them lives with the father. 70% of them live with both parents and 30% live with the other parent. But when it is the mother with the serious mental illness, about 34% of them take sole custody of their children. We also asked children if they've ever lived with any other person apart from their parents growing up. 100% of those whose parents with the mental illness is the father said they have had to live with other people who were not their parents, compared to 63% of children whose parents with the mental illness is the mother. So we compared between children whose parents have serious mental illnesses and a control group. We also asked who they lived with presently. A higher proportion of participants in the control group lived with their parents, whether both parents or single parents, compared to the children in the case group, and that was statistically significant. Same with experiencing threat to life. We asked them if there was any time when they were afraid they would lose their life. A higher proportion of participants in the case group, 40% of them said they had at some point in their life being afraid that they would lose their life, and that was statistically significant. We explored physical well-being, and also noted that a higher proportion of participants in the case group said they had problems with their mouth, with their teeth or gums, compared to those in the control group. Similarly, a higher proportion of participants in the case group said they had at some point gone hungry in a period of about a week because there was no food in the house. We asked about mental well-being, and a higher proportion of participants, 67.8% in the case group, said they had felt lonely in the last 1 year, compared to 47.5% in the control group, and that was statistically significant. We also asked if there was any time when they could not sleep at night because they were worried about something, and more than half of participants in the case group said that they had lost sleep because of worry in the last 1 year, compared to 28.8% in the control group. So what this study has highlighted is that parents with serious mental illnesses in slum communities experience significant challenges in their well-being, both clinically, economically, and caregiving. Children also within this setting experience significant challenges with their social, physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And they have been able to access support, which are mostly informal, from family members, friends, and religious bodies. The strength of this study is that we were able to focus on children, a vulnerable group in slum communities. This study is some of the limitations are that the study is a cross-sectional study, so we cannot establish causal relationships. And then we also examined children of parents who were already accessing care for their serious mental illnesses in hospitals. I would like to acknowledge everyone who has supported me on this journey. First of all, I want to thank Professor Olainka Omigbodu for this opportunity. Like she had said earlier, I'd come on this journey because she invited me to come. I never would have had this opportunity if you had not given it to me, Ma. Thank you very much, Ma. I also want to thank Professor Swaran Singh. Thank you for putting this together and for this opportunity. I want to thank every member of the Transform team, the CCAM grants. Thank you so much for all that you have done. Thank you, Ma.
We'll just go immediately and take Dr. Awusa's. I hope yours is not too long, because we have to be here, out of here in another few minutes. And then we'll end up. Thank you so much, Diola. Please clap for her once again. Dr. Bella is a senior professional, a seasoned researcher of many years standing. So she's your teacher. So listen to her PhD work. But like I said, she's been in the area of working with me. I'm so privileged in the area of child and adolescent mental health for many years now. And it's been an absolute delight. So this is the last presentation. Then we're going to have a presentation showing the collaboration with our traditional healers. And we'll end with that. And if you all remain seated, we would get some lunch across to you while you're seated. Thank you so much. Okay. Do you have questions? You have questions? Can you write your questions? Can you write your questions down? I want from Professor Swaran's lecture. Do you have paper? We can give you paper, but I would like you all students to write as many questions down as you would like. And then even if he can't answer it here, I believe he will look through them and put together some response, please. So let's have your questions. Let's write your questions down. Please, can members of the SHINE teams, you've been working so hard, SHINE and Transform teams, please, collect questions, and not just from the students, from other members, the residents, other members of the audience. Thank you very much. Succeed has not, okay.
Okay, so thank you, Ma. Good afternoon, everyone. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. So the title of my research project is Mental Health, Resilience, and Help Seeking of Youth Living in Urban Slums. I have a background in child and adolescent mental health. And when I came onto the Transform project as a PhD student, it was a great opportunity for me to work with young people, because the main project was working with adults. So I chose to work with the young people living in the slums, known as, which I have, using the acronym of YLS, Youth Living in Slums. So this is just a background. We've heard a lot today already that mental disorders are a chronic disorder of young people. So it basically starts, about 75% of mental disorders start before the age of 24. I'm sure many of us have heard that. And there's increased number of people living in urban areas in sub-Saharan Africa. And about 60% of the urban population, this research actually shows that about 60% of urban population live in slums. And this, of course, would include young people. And there were also studies from low and middle income countries suggesting that they have very high rates of mental disorders. So this was my overarching research question. How does living in a slum context, how does it influence the mental health, the resilience, and the help seeking of young people who live in this context? And these were my specific objectives: to look at the prevalence of mental disorders among them, to explore their own understanding of mental health and mental illness, to look at what the stressors they face, their coping mechanisms, the resources available for mental health, and also how they seek help for mental health issues, and then to come up with recommendations for improving their mental health. So this was a multi-phase study, was carried out in 3 phases. The first phase was a systematic review and meta-analysis. The second was an empirical study, which had a survey and qualitative methods. And the third phase was a stakeholder engagement and community mapping of resources. I'm not going to be able to present everything, but I just have snippets of it. So the empirical study was an explanatory sequential mixed methods. That just means that you start with a survey, and then some of the patterns that you see there, you try to go more in depth to understand some of those patterns. So one local government area in Ibadan was chosen, and from there 2 slum communities were chosen. And participants were recruited via snowballing and purposive sampling. These are the instruments that were used for the survey. And for the qualitative study, I used in-depth interviews and photo voice. So photo voice is a novel method. It's been gaining traction in about the last 10 years. It's a participatory method, which means that research participants become more than subjects. They actually become collaborators. So they're involved in data collection and data analysis. And this is what happened in this study. So the data analysis was done using several instruments. Data was collected using open data kit software. We had interviews, and photo voice was also carried out. So this is just the results of the systematic review. We found a high prevalence of depression and PTSD after pulling several studies together. Depression was 30%, which is about 1 in 3. And PTSD was 27%, which is about roughly also 1 in 3. These are just the socio-demographic characteristics of the survey participants. I won't go into much detail. And so with one of the instruments looked at their perceptions, understanding, knowledge, attitudes towards mental illness. And these are some of the results. So over 2/3 felt that people with mental health problems are likely to be violent. Although about 80% felt that they can recover, and almost 80% also felt that there was stigma attached to mental health problems. When they were asked questions about stigma, about 2/3 said they would be afraid to talk to someone with mental health problems, and they would be embarrassed if friends knew someone in their close family had a mental health problem. So in the qualitative study, there were 27 participants, 17 participated in the in-depth interviews, and 10 in the photo voice. So these are just some of the themes that came out of the in-depth interviews. Many of them understood mental health as relating to brain function. Most of them used derogatory terms like idiot, becoming mad, and things like that. In terms of their understanding of mental illness, they did not see things like depression, sadness, weepiness. They used terms like overthinking. Overthinking was a very popular term that was used. And suicidal thoughts. Many of them had gone through these experiences, but they did not see that as mental illness. For them, mental illness was only serious mental illness, like psychosis, hearing voices. And they felt that these people were different. There was this belief of otherness. They were very different from them. They also had multiple explanatory models for mental illness. They believed in genetics. They believed that curses, spiritual mechanisms, repercussion of evil acts like rituals could cause mental illness. So there were very many explanatory models. They also described experiences they had within the slums, going through cycles of poverty and violence. There was violence everywhere in the slums, from the home to the schools to the streets. Many of them described that 2 times a week there would be gang in their neighborhoods, and they had really come to normalize a lot of these things. And they coped in many creative ways. I'm sure a lot of us have passed through some slums either in Ibadan or in other places, and we have these area boys, who are known for harassment and intimidation, and many of them would negotiate. They would negotiate with friends so that these people would not harm them. They would avoid them. They would stay indoors. There were so many different things that they did, just to be able to navigate their lives in the slums. But they also found a lot of support from parents, especially mothers. Mothers were a huge source of support for them, and also elders within the community. Although mothers also meted out harsh punishments, and then friends were also sources of support, although some of these friends also encouraged them to leave home, to run away. Many of them talked about going to Lagos to seek a better life. And then when it came to help seeking, there was a slight preference for informal mental health providers, traditional faith providers, which they felt was in line with their cultural beliefs. So these are some of the pictures. So they took pictures. The photo voice involves taking pictures and having discussions about that. So they were asked to take pictures of people, places, and things that made them happy. And the theme here is, if things that make them happy were feelings of belonging and a feeling of home. So many of them took pictures of their houses where they felt safe with family, with friends, and being with their friends. And then another thing that made them happy was finding joy in small things. So on the left, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a picture of a television. So things like watching their favorite shows, being under their favorite tree in nature, eating their favorite food. Someone took a picture of spaghetti, that was her favorite food, and that made her happy. And then for what things that made them sad, basically was threats in the environment. So on the left, we have a picture of a well. I'm sure many of us can recognize it as a well. And they said that many times when they had to go to fetch water, they felt afraid, that they could fall in. And then the other, on the right, is an object of traditional worship, which was also openly displayed to the community and also made some of them to be afraid. So what are some of the lessons learned from this study? I think some of the things I've learned is that youth who live in this context, they experience a lot of multiple adversity. So there's poverty, there's violence, there's educational disruption, and a lot of these things come together and increase their vulnerability for mental health problems. From the systematic review, we also found out that they had double the rate of PTSD when compared to their peers globally. Global figures are just about 15%. They had about 27%. And then they also had an intuitive and experiential knowledge of mental health and distress. Even though they didn't use our own biomedical frameworks, they used their own local and religious frameworks, but there was, they did have some knowledge. And even though they also had supports and resources within their environments, these resources were fragile because the same people, the same mothers who helped them and supported them also meted out harsh punishment, which sometimes made them run away from home. And then their help seeking was differentiated. Milder things like anxiety, sadness, they went to friends and families, while more severe illness, they went more to traditional healers. So these findings have a lot of policy implications. It shows us that the mental health of young people goes way beyond just the health sector. We really need to look at all sectors in improving their mental well-being, seeing how we can integrate mental health into slum upgrading and youth development programs. And also that there's a need, just like the wider study has shown, that there's a need to leverage the existing informal networks, faith-based providers, traditional healers within slums, because they're already providing services, so we need to work with them rather than work against them. So these are just a few references, and now, these are my acknowledgements. I also want to thank the overall PI, Professor Swaran Singh, the PI of the Nigerian team, Professor Layinka Omigbodun, for this unique opportunity. I thank all my supervisors, the funders, the members of the Transform Nigeria and UK teams, and all participants. Thank you very much for your attention.
Another round of applause for Dr. Bella Osang. So it's an absolute delight to just see the way these doctoral theses are coming together. And I must say that I don't have a PhD, but I'm happy that my mentees have getting PhDs. And I'm also, yes, Dr. Odotela is, you're clapping for me. Join us to clap for me. And yes, mentoring. And I'm also happy to say that I'm the mother of two PhDs. My two children have PhDs. My son has a PhD and my daughter. So, thank you so much. But it's been a learning experience supervising and, really very, very interesting. So I think we're coming to the last aspects. Are you writing your comments? So that Prof will have a lot of feedback to take back to him. One of the things I also must mention, Prof, is that the medical students we have here are the best of the best. Yes. The entry requirements into Ibadan Medical School is, what's making them laugh? What's making me laugh? Huh? Yeah, best of the best. it's a purely merit criteria. Pure merit criteria. And so even the children of anybody, as long as you are bright, can get into Ibadan Medical School and thrive. And our children are such. Our children, aren't you? We are not our children. So our medical students are really, really good, and something I'm very proud about. I was just looking at the ranking, the 2026 ranking of universities, and I noticed, it was subjects matter. And yesterday I just pressed in medical schools. And I think in Nigeria, we're the only school within the range of 300. Yes, I think so clap for your teachers and clap for our provosts. And you are in a great, and you must be appreciated. I hope you appreciate it. Okay. Okay then, so we're going to have do you want to speak before or after the film? You want to speak now? Okay. So let's welcome the UMSA president. No, he'll go behind. Go behind. I thought it was just a photographer all over the place. I didn't know he was a politician. And, when Professor Swaran said people with personality disorders, it doesn't at all. You don't belong to that class. I'm a politician in another way myself. Prof, but I agree with some kinds of I agree with you that a lot of the people that go into this thuggery politics, they have personality disorders. That's the truth. So if they don't end up in prison, they end up in politics. But he's a different kind of person. He's a visionary. He's a leader. He's a great guy, going places. So over to you, my president.
Thank you very much, Ma. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to stand here to speak with you. I would like to appreciate Professor Singh for coming here to give this insightful and thought-provoking presentation. I believe that we've been able to learn a lot from the students' perspective, and I'm also quite privileged because of it's coming now, because most students, when they cross, it's when they go through different postings that they start to think, maybe I'll specialize in this, maybe I'll specialize in that, I'm in surgery, I want to become a surgeon, I'm in medicine, maybe I should go to medicine. As you move from one to another, you start to think. But having this thought-provoking session has really given us, is a testament to the opportunities that we have, and also that we have to harness as medical students. And I once again like to appreciate you, and also appreciate Professor Godwin for the fantastic opportunity, and also all members that are involved in planning for this program, and also Dr. Rita for constantly calling to check on the students. Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, UMSA president. We're very proud of you. So are we ready for the last, this is the last, the traditional healer? Yes, thank you.
bàbá ìbásídìdí aláṣọ mọ́mìrún wọn dá sí kúrò mọ́ ṣàìgbà ìwé ń délé fáráfún ọba àdìsá bàbá ẹ bá ní ṣe ìyẹ bá ní ṣe Olódùmarè wá bá ní ṣe o àṣefẹ́ àṣegbà ní ojú ọjọ́ o ó ṣe ṣe olórí ìgbà sí láì àbí ọ̀rọ̀ gbà ó wọn rárí àwọ alára. ìṣirà àwọ òkè ìjírò wọn rárí àwọ alára.
òṣìṣẹ́ ni wọ́n bí mi sílùú Ìbàdàn bàgbọ́n mo jogún sẹ́yìn ní ọwọ́ bàbá tó bí mi dà. Bàbá jẹ́ ògbóǹtarìgì àṣà òṣèṣègùn tí gbogbo èèyàn tó máa ń bọ̀wọ̀ fún. Ọwọ́ bàbá mi ni mo ti kọ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nǹkan tí mo kọ́ nípa rẹ̀, nípa ìwé àtegbò àti àyájọ́ pẹ̀lú ifá dídá. Bàbá kọ́ wa ní ìwà pẹ̀lẹ́tù tí èèyàn fi ń gbélé ayé àti ìwà tí a lè fi farabalẹ̀ láti wò sàkún àwọn ìwà ènìyàn. Bàbá mi kọ́ mi láti fi etí gbọ́rọ̀ pẹ̀lú ẹ̀mí. Mo ti lo àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ tí wọ́n kọ́ mi yìí láti ṣe ìtọ́jú àwọn èèyàn tí wọ́n ní àìlera ọpọlọ látìgbà tí mo sì ti dá dúró tí mo ti ṣiṣẹ́ yìí fúnra mi. Mo ti tọ́jú àwọn èèyàn tó lé ní 15. A rí nínú wọn tí mò ń ṣètọ́jú yìí tó jẹ́ pé wọ́n ń gbé pẹ̀lú mi. Nínú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn èèyàn wọ̀nyí, a rí nínú wọn tó jẹ́ pé ó jẹ́ ẹni tó súnmọ́ mi gan pẹ̀lú, tí ó jẹ́ pé ẹni mi lonítọ̀hún jẹ́. Gbogbo ẹni tó bá sì ní ìpèníjà àìlera yìí ni mo máa ń ṣe ìtọ́jú wọn dára. Mo ti lo àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ tí wọ́n kọ́ mi yìí láti ṣe ìtọ́jú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn tí wọ́n ní àìlera ọpọlọ. Oríṣiríṣi àwọn nǹkan ni ó ṣe okùnfà bí àwọn èèyàn ṣe ní ìpèníjà ọpọlọ. Nígbà mìíràn ó lè jẹ́ nípa ti ẹ̀mí, nígbà mìíràn ó lè jẹ́ ọkàn, nígbà mìíràn ó sì lè jẹ́ nǹkan tó kẹnú tí a ò lè fẹnu ṣàlàyé rẹ̀ tán. Ju gbogbo rẹ̀ lọ, gbogbo ẹni tó bá wá sí ọ̀dọ̀ mi fún ìtọ́jú náà ni mo máa ń dá wọn lóhùn. Lára àwọn tí mo ti tọ́jú, ọ̀rẹ́ ẹnìkan wà tí mi ò lè gbàgbé láéláé. Ẹni yìí dàbí ẹ̀yà ara tèmi gangan ni. Pẹ̀lú gbogbo gbìyànjú tí à ń ṣe, bí mo ṣe ń rí nínú àìlera yìí máa ń jẹ́ ìbànújẹ́ fún mi tí ó máa ń pò mí ní ọkàn pọ̀ gidi gan. Ó jẹ́ kí n wòye sí wípé mo nílò láti ní ìmọ̀ kún àwọn ìmọ̀ tí mo ti ní tẹ́lẹ̀, tí ó sì jẹ́ kí n ní àgbọ́yé ọ̀tun nípa ìtọ́jú àìlera ọpọlọ. Tí mò ń sọ yìí jẹ́ ẹni tí ó jáfáfá, tí ó sì lẹ́ran ọ̀fẹ́ lára. Ó ní àwọn àfojúsùn ọjọ́ ọ̀la tó dára. Ojú rẹ̀ tutù. Ìdùnnú àti àlàáfíà máa ń hàn ní ẹyinjú rẹ̀ dáadáa. Ṣàdédé ni gbogbo àwọn àbùdá yìí bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí í yí padà lẹ́yìn tí ọkọ rẹ̀ tí ó fẹ́ ṣaláìsí. Nígbà tí ọkọ yìí kú, ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ náà ṣe ìpalára fún un nínú ara. Ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí í yẹra fún àwọn èèyàn díẹ̀díẹ̀. Kò dáhùn sí kíkí àwọn èèyàn mọ́ bó ṣe máa ń ṣe tẹ́lẹ̀. Ó di wípé ó ń dákẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́. Nígbà tó yá, ara rẹ̀ kò balẹ̀ mọ́. Agbára káká ni ló fi ń ro oorun sùn lásìkò yìí. Ńṣe ni ó dàbí ẹni wípé ọkàn rẹ̀ ti kọ̀ sílẹ̀ tí ò lè bá ọkàn rẹ̀ dọ́gba mọ́. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí aṣàwòṣèṣègùn, mo ṣe ohun tí mo mọ̀ jùlọ. Mo lo àwọn ewé àti egbò, mo sì ṣèwúre. Mo wà pẹ̀lú rẹ̀ fún ìtọ́jú. Mo máa ń bá a sọ̀rọ̀. Mo ń gbìyànjú gbogbo ohun tí bàbá mi ti kọ́ mi. Bàbá mi náà sì ti gbìyànjú ohun tí wọ́n lè ṣe nígbà tí wọ́n wà láyé ṣáájú kí wọ́n tó fa ìtọ́jú náà lé mi lọ́wọ́ láti tẹ̀síwájú. Ṣùgbọ́n fún ìgbà àkọ́kọ́ ní ìgbà pípẹ́ mo rí wípé ìtọ́jú náà kò tó. Mo rí wípé mi ò lè dá ìtọ́jú náà ṣe. Lásìkò ìgbà yẹn ni mo gbọ́ nípa ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ kan ní ilé ìwòsàn UCH. Wọ́n ní iṣẹ́ ìwádìí transform ni ó gbé ìwádìí náà kalẹ̀. Wọ́n kó àwọn oníṣègùn ìbílẹ̀ bíi tèmi papọ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn dókítà àti àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìlera ọpọlọ mìíràn. Mo kọ́kọ́ rò pé kí ni wọ́n ń ṣe yìí. Mo ń rò ó ṣùgbọ́n mi ò ríro. Mo sá lọ síbẹ̀ láti lọ darapọ̀ mọ́ wọn. Níbi ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ yẹn, ìwòye mi yí padà. Mo bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí rò pé àwọn àìlera ọpọlọ kan nílò ju ewé àti egbò àti àyájọ́ lọ. Wọ́n nílò ìtọ́jú ní ilé ìwòsàn láti ọwọ́ àwọn onímọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀. Wọ́n nílò irúfẹ́ ìtọ́jú tí èmi ò lè fún wọn. Ní ọjọ́ yẹn ni mo rí wípé àwọn ìlànà ìtọ́jú méjèèjì tí ó papọ̀ mọ́ ti ìbílẹ̀ àti alábọ́dé kò tako ara wọn rárá. Wọ́n lè ṣiṣẹ́ papọ̀. Òye yìí mú ìrètí mi kún sí i. Ó fún mi ní òye tuntun lórí bí mo ṣe lè ran àbúrò mi yìí lọ́wọ́. Nígbà tí mo dé ilé, mo bá bàbá mi sọ̀rọ̀. Ní àsìkò yìí wọn ò tí ì dolóògbé. Mo sọ fún wọn pé a ní láti gbé e lọ sí ilé ìwòsàn o. Bàbá gbà sí mi lẹ́nu nítorí àwọn náà rí i pé ara rẹ̀ kò yá bí a ti ṣe lérò. Tí ó sì jẹ́ wípé à ń tọ́jú àwọn mìíràn tí wọ́n sì ń gbádùn. Wọ́n wúre fún wa. Ìgbà yẹn ni èmi àti ọmọ rẹ̀ ọkùnrin la gbé wá sí inú UCH láti wá tọ́jú ẹ̀. Nígbà tí a dé ilé orí wa, àwọn ìbéèrè tí wọ́n ń béèrè lọ́wọ́ wa kò mọ níwọ̀n rárá. Gbogbo nǹkan ni wọ́n ń béèrè ọ̀rọ̀ lórí rẹ̀. Nígbà tí wọ́n tẹnu bọ gbogbo ìgbé ayé rẹ̀ láti àtẹ̀yìnwá, ara mi kò fẹ́ gbà mọ́ o. Kí ló dé tí wọ́n fẹ́ mọ gbogbo àwọn nǹkan wọ̀nyí? Èé ṣe tí wọ́n fẹ́ kí ó máa rántí àwọn nǹkan tí à ń gbìyànjú rẹ̀ pé kí ó gbàgbé. Ṣùgbọ́n nígbà tí ìbéèrè náà dé ibì kan, mo rí èèmọ̀. Àwọn ìbéèrè yẹn jẹ́ kí ó sọ̀rọ̀ nínú. Ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí rántí gbogbo nǹkan. Ó ronú láti fèsì kí wọ́n tó fún ní oògùn kankan. Ìlànà ìbéèrè àti ìdáhùn yẹn ń bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ṣiṣẹ́ ìtúsílẹ̀ ní ara ti àtiwá. Wọ́n sì bọ̀wọ̀ fún wa. Wọ́n mọ bí a ti ṣe bá ènìyàn sọ̀rọ̀. Nígbà tí wọ́n kọ oògùn fún wa, a lọ ra àwọn oògùn náà. Lẹ́yìn tí ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí lo àwọn oògùn wọ̀nyí, a rí i pé àkíyèsí yìí sọ pé àyípadà ti ń dé ara rẹ̀ díẹ̀díẹ̀. Ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ń túra ká. Ó ń sọ̀rọ̀ díẹ̀díẹ̀. Ó ń bá àwọn ènìyàn tí wọ́n wà ní àyíká ṣeré, àti pé kò dàbí ẹni tó tiẹ̀ ní ìpòrúru ọkàn kankan mọ́. Lóòótọ́ ni pé kò rọrùn. Àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n ti sọ pé òbìrìpó ni ìpadàbọ̀sípò jẹ́, kì í ṣiṣẹ́ ọjọ́ kan. Nígbà tí bàbá wa kú, ó mì gbogbo wa lọ́kàn. Ṣùgbọ́n àbúrò mi yìí ó dùn ju gbogbo wa lọ. Gbogbo ìrírí tó ti là kọjá ní ikú bàbá wa yìí tó tú sílẹ̀ lára rẹ̀. Díẹ̀díẹ̀ àwọn àìlera yìí ó tún bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí í farahàn padà. Ó tún di wípé ara rẹ̀ kò balẹ̀ mọ́. Kò rórun sùn déédéé mọ́. Lọ́jọ́ kan fúnra rẹ̀ ló gbéra ló wá sí ilé. Àdéhùn tó mú wá sí ilé ìwòsàn yìí fi hàn pé ẹnìkan dá lóhùn. Nígbà tí mo wo sàkó ìrìn àjò mi nínú iṣẹ́ yìí, mo rí wípé mo ti yí padà ní àwọn agbọn kan. Èmi tí mo nígbàgbọ́ tó pin wípé àwọn ewé àtegbò nìkan ni a lè fi ṣe ìwòsàn ohun gbogbo. Mo ti wá di ẹni tí ó gbàgbọ́ nínú ìfọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀. Mo ti rí bí ìlànà ìbílẹ̀ àti ìlànà alábọ́dé ṣe lè ṣe iṣẹ́ papọ̀. Mo ti rí àrídájú bí ohun tí mò ń ṣe lè ṣe àtìlẹ́yìn fún ohun tí àwọn dókítà ń ṣe àti bí ohun tí wọ́n ń ṣe náà ṣe lè bu ọlá kún ohun tèmi náà mọ̀.
Báwọn lájà ẹlẹ́rìn ọlẹ́rìn mọ́ wà dúpẹ́ tèmi bá a bá ṣe lè lò.
Transforming lives, transforming ideas. And I think it's a good note to end this conversation. Conversation continues, but being here, I think it's been wonderful, really wonderful time. So the team, have you started to, who is distributing? Because people want to leave, yes, because they've been here. Once again, I want to appreciate the college management and executive committee, and I appreciate my sister here who has stayed on. She's a community nurse, so you need to, she wants to become a
community mental health nurse.
Yes. Yes, I think there are many things we can do together. Many, many things. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for staying. And also, I want to appreciate all our resident doctors, consultants. I once again appreciate our collaborators. We're going to continue to work together. We really appreciate working with you. And thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you. Please, everyone should remain seated so we serve you sitting down. And I appreciate the UMSA president and his colleagues. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to our presenters, PhD students, and indeed, can I have the media team? Can I have the media team? Okay. Okay. Can I have the media team? I'm a member of the media team. So different people. Where is Chuka? I'm really grateful. So Sheung we worked together to put many of the stories together, and then he's a storyteller, and then he handed over executive producer. You put your name down about 10 times. Come. He's an Igbo man. Chuka, producer. He's a man with, I have to be careful, I'm online. But I just want to say thank you. Media team, let them come and take a bow here, all of you. They've been working so hard, putting things together, the translations from Yoruba to English, and so many things. I don't know how much sleep you've gotten, but once again, please clap. Clap for my media team. This is the CCAMH media team. CCAMH is the place to be. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. So I think on that note, we still have one more film to show, but we'll show that as you are collecting your food. But Prof and myself, we need to leave. Did you get a picture of Prof with the student, with the crowd? Did you take any photo? You didn't go on stage to take any photo. You did? Eh? Okay, Prof, can you sit here so that he can take you? I'll sit with you. Dr. Usa and others. You have questions. They'll collect. You want to ask your question. I'm taking Prof to UI now. I asked you before. Can we collect you want him to answer the question now? We're going to show one more.
Show me now, I can answer now, if you've got time.
Please, let's wait and watch the last movie, please. Let me see. This one is too long. Prof, you can write these questions and respond. They're too long.
Let me have a look. Let me have a quick look.
It will take forever. Prof, sit down, please. Oh yeah, take the... Everybody say transform. One to go. Do you want to be alone? Okay, can we halt the film? Let's halt the film, please. Professor Swaran will spend 2 minutes answering the questions. While I pack my bag.
Okay, so can you hear me? Yeah. So thank you for those of you who've asked these questions. They are basically two types of questions, okay? One is about what to do with the stigma that comes with being a psychiatrist. Your own colleagues don't treat you with respect, okay? So that's one. That is the discouragement you get from being a psychiatrist. And the other one is, what are the other routes, career pathways that we can have while doing clinical psychiatry? So I'll answer the first thing is, don't worry about stigma. If you let stigma stop you, you have compounded the stigma. You have not solved the problem, you have added to the problem, okay? All change in the world comes from people who say, I am not happy with what's going on, I'm going to change it. If you make a compromise on that, you say, well, surgeons get more respect, I want more respect, the world is like this. No, the world will stay like this unless you change it. So change the stigma internally first, and then argue your case, right? We have to show people what we do. The moment people see the power of psychiatric treatment, they will do that. When I joined England, there was a lot of stigma. In 36 years, it's gone. Okay? So you can do it. Don't fear it. Take it up as a challenge. The second thing is that once you've learned psychiatry from the Western context, you've understood what needs to be done, think of what needs to be done locally. Don't just follow what you read in a book. Say, what can I do here? And there, the best thing you can do is join a university department. Learn research skills. Learn how to ask important questions. Learn which questions are important. Learn how to find the right answer. One of the most difficult things in research is to ask the right question. Okay? It's very rewarding. So you can do clinical psychiatry and a bit of research, and you have the best of both worlds. I will leave you with one thought. How many of you are training to be a psychiatrist here? How many of you are training to become psychiatrists?
Oh, the residents, how many are training?
Okay. You should all know that by the time you finish your training, you will have more clinical experience than most professors of psychiatry in UK. Because of the sheer number of cases you see, the sheer variety of cases you see, the whole severity and spectrum that you see, you are getting the best exposure to psychiatry, which we no longer get because our services intervene so early, we hardly get chronic patients. And we see very few patients as compared to you. So you will be better trained clinically than some of my trainees, because you will have seen more patients. So remember that. Remember that you have more experience than your counterparts in the West. Okay? You definitely have more experience.
So let's clap for Professor Swaran. We are going. Those of you who don't have food packs, put your names down and your numbers. We will get the food across to you. But let everybody be seated. Please, can we play the video, the matron's video, please? Everybody, please remain seated, please. It's just about 5 minutes. Thank you.
I am the matron at Ononia Primary Health Care Center in Ibadan Southeast Local Government. I first met the Transform Project team when I was the matron at Agbogbo Primary Health Care Center. As a health professional, I have always understood that mental illness can have medical causes. What was missing, however, was collaboration. There was not much of it between primary care providers like us and specialists in mental health. We managed patients the best we could, but often did not have clear referral pathways or strong partnership with those at the tertiary level. When the Transform Project came, they gave us training that made a big difference. We were taught how to identify common and serious mental disorders, how to engage with people living with these conditions, and when and how to refer. The training also emphasized collaboration, showing us that when community health workers, religious and traditional healers, and biomedical professionals work together, patients' outcomes improve. It made our work easier and more effective.
Okay, not be like this, you supposed to go. Why they go like this now? Eh? Why they go like, what's in this?
There was a patient, a tricycle rider. He told us he was hearing voices giving him commands before coming to us. He had gone to several prayer centers, both Islamic and Christian. The last place he visited was a prayer mountain in Ikire. His mother had wanted to go with him, but he insisted on going alone one morning. He came down from the mountain saying he was ill. But some days later, while conveying passengers to Iwo Road, he suddenly turned towards Bodija instead.
You supposed to go. Why they go like this now? Eh? Why they go like where they think they like this?
The passengers became suspicious. People thought he was a kidnapper. He was beaten badly by bystanders. His skin was bruised all over. After that, he came to our facility. Because of the training and support we received from Transform, we are able to refer him quickly to the University College Hospital for proper evaluation and care. The Transform project trained 75 community health workers across 5 local governments in Ibadan. I was one of them. The training covered many areas such as collaboration, mental health disorders, human rights, and how to make effective referrals. It was co-delivered with the Oyo State Mental Health Desk Officer. We also received referral cards and had follow-up support. Before these projects, we did not have strong links with the mental health specialists. Now we can work as partners. I have seen how this collaboration helps patients. It helps families. It helps those of us working at the community level. I am happy that I can now refer cases with confidence, knowing the person will get help. Thanks to the Transform project, we are no longer working in isolation. We are working together.
Please, Matron is here. Matron, please, can you stand up for recognition? Please come out, ma. Thank you so much for your collaboration. Okay, so thank you, everybody, for coming, and we look forward to having you next time.